But yeah, no, it's going well. I just if I could have stayed up, I would have. I mean, I could have kept the computer up. I would have done it. But that's a huge update. So that I knew that was going to go bad.
Sure.
You know, it's one of those things you have to be there to do.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, you should have warned me about that.
Oh, no, I know how this stuff happens.
Okay, well that's good. Crash.
I just have to do a couple things. I'll flip you over. You can boot Windows. And you can stay on the phone.
Okay. Well, give me just a couple moments. David sent me something that I'm got to finish downloading real quick. It's almost done.
All
right. Are we live?
All right, my radio stars. Would you like to say hello to the audience? Say hello to your adoring public.
Hello.
Oh yes, my fluffer got me ready for the show today. My agents have arranged not for you people to say nasty things to me.
Well, you know, that's all right, though. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to American Freeman on the Freeman Radio Network. I am Don Perry. I'm joined by the responsible party, Mr. Estratios Konstantin Moradis,
yes, we're all going
President.
To become incredible elites, and the loose side of the World Freeman Society as we become super wealthy radio stars.
Right. Well, you know, if we ever become super wealthy radio stars.
Effete elites that never talk to the roadies.
Yeah.
Right.
Is this a new online game by Zynga or something? So I'm playing Castle Ages. I haven't heard of Radio Stars.
Oh, Howard Stern is.
Yeah, well, you know, video killed the radio star, so.
Oh no, Howard Stern killed the TV.
Our Father, which art in New York, hallowed be thy name.
That's exactly correct.
Exactly.
You know, Infinity would often own 4 channels, four radio stations in the market where Howard wanted to enter, and they wouldn't put him on, and so he'd go on the last place station in the local area and blow away Infinity's own stations.
Yep.
I mean, they wouldn't trust to put him on. They hate him too, you know.
Sure.
I mean,
so you go to the least popular network or whatever and make it the most popular network?
Right. No, the independent station who would be dead last in the ratings would hire Howard just out of desperation.
Yeah,
they'd go from last to first and blow away the company who was syndicating Howard. I mean, because they would own the 4 big stations in town, all of whom would sink to 0. And there was no competition when Howard went on the air. I mean, it was him or nothing. And like, there was such a reaction both by Clear Channel and Infinity when he left. But if serious, they changed the name of their things to Free Radio, which is a reaction to pay radio.
Right.
Want to mention something like that unless it's that big of a threat to you.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Psychologically, that's what we're talking about. If you had any business savvy, you wouldn't change the name of your stations to Free Radio to point out that Howard has gone somewhere else.
No, because like, how is it going to be free? You've got no adverts in it or something. You can't call it free radio as soon as you've got adverts in it. You're getting paid by sponsors and you're collecting money out of that, aren't you?
Well, it was a total. I mean, it shows their flawed thinking in every possible
way. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah. Very short-term reaction, isn't it? Just a knee-jerk reaction. Well, let's call it the opposite.
The whole of Free Radio went down the toilet. He wasn't on every station in the world. They've never found every station that had him on there went down the toilet.
Yeah.
They've never found. They tried to put David Lee Roth on.
Yeah.
David Lee Roth knows how to talk to the biggest stadiums in the world.
Yeah.
That's a different type of. I mean, he needs crowd reaction.
Sure.
What he's good at. He can't sit in a dark room with a microphone.
No, I can't even imagine that. He kept getting. That's Dave Lee Roth out of Van Halen, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, because he's got a really bad reputation because he's too outrageous and extravagant for the band. The other band sort of like almost seem like conservative in comparison with him, and he's just like every time his outrageous antics got him kicked out of the band. You know, drugs and like sex or whatever. I saw some sort of documentary and stuff, and they were saying there were like 30 hookers underneath the stage in every show. Something
Really?
like that throughout. Yeah, 30 groupie fans, but 3 hookers basically.
Right, basically.
Mm. Yeah, all like topless
Weird.
and stuff. They'd be like going up and down the stairs, on the stage, and they'd like bring them up. Total nutty existence. Aerosmith and all that. This same sort of lifestyle.
Just on a quick little side note and a bit of history lesson for everyone out there. Do you know where the term hooker comes from?
Rugby or something.
No, actually it goes back to the Civil War. There was a general in charge of one of the branches of the Union Army whose last name was Hooker. And he also enjoyed the company of women of leisure, shall we say. And at one point, somebody had come onto the camp that Hooker was in charge of and saw these women of leisure and asked, who are they? And the response was, oh, they're hookers.
Yeah. As in they're women that belong to Hooker, or they're hookers.
Right,
bitches.
exactly. And it just... Hooker.
What was the first part?
Where the term hooker came from?
Oh, okay.
Hooker means prostitute, in slang today, you see.
Right,
Well, it has
because
forever.
of the Civil War. It's just like the term sideburns comes from General Burnside, who actually had gigantic, huge lamb chops growing down off the side of his face. But that's
Burnside gives you what word?
sideburns.
Oh, sideburns.
Yep, sideburns come from General Burnside, and the term hookers, in reference to prostitutes, comes from General Hooker, and they both stem from the Civil War here in the U.S.
Did you ever see this incredible
And
thing
it's,
on TV? And it's the Antiques Roadshow.
Seen it?
And Will Sasso,
Not the UK version, I mean, that's like very well known.
So Will Sasso, he was from the second wave of Mad TV. He's the last of any good guy they ever had. But so he's appraising these people's stuff. But every one of the items that is brought to him has, because they always think I'm bringing you garbage. It's going to be $5 or something. So they're surprised to find it has great value. But what it means is that their family are prostitutes who service Chinese railway workers orally. And this is their opium syrup bottle.
Yeah.
It's a very
Right,
rare
exactly.
opium syrup bottle for white hookers who were opium whores. And so what he's saying is that you are the granddaughter of an opium whore.
Yeah.
Welcome to America.
So the woman gets this look on her face of just sort of, it shows you that they're trying to say that Americans are sold out by the cash element.
Yeah.
Well,
That even if it meant my grandmother's an opium whore, I'm rich.
That's all they care about in the UK as well. It's ridiculous, yeah. Some of their eyes just glaze over sometimes when they're going on about historical
They were just
detail.
tormenting people. It was just a joke, but
Yeah.
that happens at the real show in a lot of ways.
Yeah, Antiques Roadshow. I think they got that from here, probably. Yeah, that's been going on for decades.
On PBS,
Yeah.
Probably
with
Yeah.
the PBS thing, most of PBS's stuff comes from
But
Canada
I would
or
look at
England.
the old E-shows from Howard Stern and see if it isn't another Howard Stern ripoff.
That may be, though.
He's been ripped off 1 billion times. He invented American Idol and showed it on E! Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? Street Smarts. The signature bit for Jay Leno, the ripoff artist, is called Jaywalking. It's the homeless game.
Right.
And he never gets paid. I mean,
It's a game. It's a game when you're homeless.
They built the Infinity Network with Howard Stern's ratings and stuff, and then he's the only guy who was never offered ownership of stations, because they don't have to own everything. They have owned and operated by the affiliates. Cousin Brucey, who had no talent whatsoever in the 50s, whose greatest hits consist of 30-second air checks. That's it. He had ownership. Howard Stern was given performance fees.
Right.
That deal for a series was the first time in his entire life he'd ever been paid once. And CBS, on the way out the door, because Infinity merged with CBS, tried to sue him for the actual amount of the contract for Sirius. $500 million. They sued him for $500 million in damages, hoping to take away any penny he might earn on the outside after not not paying him. I don't know. I'm a Stern defender. I get a lot of crap. But
yeah.
God, if you listen to the old, I was playing some of the Stern Evaluators, which are some of the carefully edited tapes. I have the raw tapes; they're excellent from the early '90s and the late '80s. But you hear that stuff, and it's 1,000% better than it even is now. The guy can talk for 5 hours straight.
Yeah, but pencils and pens.
And it's fascinating. And the stuff he says gets the audience to do the most insane things. He was talking about that he didn't understand Texas and the stuff he's talking about. That clearly it's the Stetson hat that causes them to hate minorities and whatever. So he came up with the nigger-hating hat. And he was joking. And the guy from Austin writes this song to go with it. And I mean, it's hysterical, but it's nobody puts the hat on. Just because I got the hat on, now I hate the black people. I mean,
yeah. Nobody even thought of that before he mentioned it, sort of thing. Sort of like created something.
It just causes these ripples of stuff that sticks in your mind.
Yeah.
And people talk about how he's degenerating society. That's how they ruined him on the E! Show. He has no control over that. They would take the most embarrassing elements of the show, which were not characteristic of what went on, and stretch it out to weeks.
Yeah.
With a million commercials in it, just to ruin his name. If you
sure.
on the radio, the real comedy of Howard Stern is he begged people to take their clothes off or something, and they would tell him no. The standard answer is, so you've come in here to promote the 500-man anal gangbang. Is that right, Brandy? So why don't you take off your clothes for us? Because he's always desperate to see that. I'm sorry, Howard, I've become Pennsylvania Dutch. That's against my religion. So you're here to promote the 500-man anal gangbang tape now, but you can't take your clothes off now. No, Howard, I'm absolutely not. I'm pious, you see.
All right.
I mean,
Just brilliant.
That's the comedy, and you can't set that up in advance. It doesn't work.
Well, it's like we were talking about yesterday with when the S came on. And they had all the members there, and he's screaming for 15 minutes at his tech guys.
Right from the John
Well, and that's what makes some of the stuff so great, is that you can't make it up.
Right.
You know, that's the great thing about our show, is that we're on for 3 hours, and you can't make this shit up.
Last night I played on the American Freeman thing what he did to the guy in Philadelphia. Did you read the second book of Miss America that he wrote? He details.
I did not.
But when you hear the original tapes of what went on, that guy lost his job, lost his #1 receiver in the ratings to 0. Because a lot of people would listen to Howard over the satellite feeds and rip his stuff off in the local market because they knew that there was no competition. You could just take his stuff and steal it and claim it was yours, and you're a genius.
Mm-hmm.
But when Howard would come to town, this ruse would be destroyed.
Mm-hmm. And
so this guy lost everything. He had to sell all his possessions in a red tag sale. He lost his wife. The wife comes on the show and goes out on Dial-A-Date and goes out on the date with his greatest tormentor. Captain Jenks is a phony phone caller who lived in the Philadelphia area. He was a gas station attendant who never did anything. But he tormented the DeBella with phone calls about Howard Stern. And then later, DeBella's greatest tormentor, Captain Jenks, goes out with his wife. They haven't even gotten the divorce. They're just separated. And so and it got on his WR TV show, so it's on film, this date. Eventually, the guy decided to go back to the job he had before he was a #1 DJ, which was landscaping. I guess this is before the Mexicans came up here. But,
Must have been.
He's trying to do landscaping, right? So Howard hired landscapers in a truck and would go around and undercut DeBella's offers, so DeBella couldn't get jobs as landscaping.
Wow. All for ripping him off.
He had to come back into the studio in New York, which he'd never been there, would come to the studio, not back, and beg Howard to work in radio at all. It's a horrible story, really. I mean, think about it, but it shows that Howard was able to beat the Time and Weather Channel, the automated station. That's not just a joke in the movie. That's all documented. He beat the Time and Weather Channel. automated one.
Well,
Emergency.
sure.
Yeah. They thought that was possible.
Well, but I mean, if you've read the book, if you've seen the movie, if you've gone through any of that stuff, one of the first things that, one of the most impressive things that I came across is towards the end there, where Paul Giancarlo, who plays the program director, whatever, for the Howard Stern show, Giamatti, I'm sorry, is giving the information. It's like, well, the average Howard Stern fan listens for an hour and 25 minutes. Most cited reason, I wanted to hear what he had to say next. They're like, okay, but what about the people who hate him? Well, the average Howard Stern hater listens for 2 hours and 35 minutes. Yeah. Most cited reason, I wanted to hear what he had to say next. I'm sorry, if the people who love you and the people who hate you are listening, and the people who hate you are listening longer, I don't care if you hate me, you're listening, right?
Right.
Yeah, so, completely.
There was another famous story, I just blanked out.
That's all right.
When he was in Washington, the competing program directors called in and screamed that he had 18 minutes, or no, that they had sat there for 18 minutes while Howard Stern, listening to Howard Stern eat breakfast on the radio. And so he walked out of the office like, this is no problem, and then he comes back in and screams to the program director. Not only are these program directors not listening to their own shows, they're listening to me have breakfast on the radio for 18 minutes. And they call me to complain about it.
It's the freshness of it. It's the uniqueness of it. It's the newness of it. It's the fact that no one else was doing it.
Yeah. But when it's copied, it's so phony and it doesn't work.
Well, and I think that's why we have such an opportunity to be successful with this internet radio program, because I think everyone else out there is just way too serious about their internet radio programs, and we can be as lighthearted and loose with it.
There's no you don't see them going on each other's shows.
Right.
They have 99% agreement on what is going on in the New World Order and what's going on in the world generally, and they'll fight over like reptilians versus stargates.
Yeah, sure, exactly. Are they reptiles, or are they really Nephilim? Are they aliens from Mars, or are they aliens from the... who cares?
When I first got into this, I remember...
Were they fallen angels?
Yeah, but I remember...
right?
I wasn't very sophisticated in this, like 2002. So I remember I wrote down a white piece of paper, I still got it, all the issues that I thought were important, and I put like Alex Jones, David Icke, and I marked out which... everything. They agreed on every possible position, and yet he wouldn't have him on the show. The fans had to beg and all this stuff, and they acted begrudgingly. I'm going to bring it. You agree about everything.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
sure. Gays with grudges.
the thing that makes Howard Stern unique, and he mentions the secret in private parts, but no one seems to pick up on it. He brought the Lenny Bruce thing to radio. Before that, people would come on with prepared bits or sound checks.
Yeah.
Only for very short periods of time. Lenny Bruce changed comedy because it was no longer Abbott and Costello or prepared skits like you see on SNL, but to just go out there on a stool and talk off the top of your head for 2 hours. That was not done. It invented stand-up comedy. Lenny Bruce. But even stand-up comedy has gotten to a point where it's all written and rehearsed stuff for the most part.
Right. Yeah, it's planned in advance.
They had a lot of copycats around them, but his greatest disciples were George Carlin and Richard Pryor. George Carlin once punched out a cop so he could ride down to the police station with his hero, Lenny Bruce. The same police car.
Gotta love it.
Yeah.
Gotta love it. George Carlin, easily one of the greatest comedians of all time, and easily one of the most aware of what was actually going on with the NWO.
Yeah, Richard Pryor, he got a job in Hollywood, didn't he, as well, in the end? He, wasn't he, isn't this the same guy who was in Superman 3?
Yeah. That was a bad sellout. But,
yeah.
He did write most of Blazing Saddles.
Yeah, that was great.
Brilliant film.
Yeah.
Brilliant film.
I hate westerns. That's why.
Yeah, but that wasn't a western.
That's what I mean.
That's a Mel Brooks movie. Nobody moves. Was a nigga. He'll do it! He's crazy!
But nobody's caught on that Ron Paul actually succeeded where Mel Brooks' movie The Producers, the characters failed.
Sure.
They were trying to make the worst show ever to put on Broadway so that when they over-raised the money that they would need for it, they could just keep it if the show closed in failure.
Yeah. Well, and
Paul did all these money bombs and things right at the end and then dropped out of the race. There was no reason to. He didn't want to come in third, or I don't know. But
Ron Paul didn't drop out of the race.
Given it back.
Ron Paul didn't drop out of the race.
No, he was not on the ballot at the end. He dropped out of the race. Even if you could have voted for him, it didn't count.
He was on the ballot here in Michigan.
I know, but he had dropped out of the race. Some places they couldn't take him off the ballot because it had already been printed. But he had dropped out of the race. Even if he had won the popular election, they couldn't have put him in because he had conceded already.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that, because, of course...
Producer's game, by over-raising, by far, he raised the most money, but he dropped out of the race and got to keep it all.
Right.
Why would you do that? And in knowing that this financial crisis and all this, you took people's money, the most sincere people, and then didn't run. At least he could have run attack ads. At least he could have actually gone through that and came in number 3.
Well... Nader in 2000, Perot in both.
No, Perot's like. Well, I'm starting to think Ron Paul's a total fraud too, but Perot was a Rockefeller agent.
Well, sure, of course, it was the only reason he ran was to control how the vote went.
Yeah, well, no, it wasn't about killing the. They always tell you that because you're supposed to lockstep vote for Democrats or Republicans. They say, well, it's killing the one guy got elected because you voted for this. No, wrong.
Well, no, that wasn't it. But it was to control a particular segment of the population.
No, that happened once in history. It was when Teddy Roosevelt, who was too old.
Right, when he decided to switch and run on the Independent Party. Yep. So that
happened once. So people quote it a million times now for every election as if that's a valid situation. It's not. I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at who falls for it.
I don't think you're mad at me. If you want to be mad at me, that's fine. I'll climb to this.
I tend to get hopped up.
Well, at least you're animated at the top of the show today. Woohoo!
Yeah.
We'll try to keep that energy running all the way through the entire program today. So, so unfortunately, because of updates and things going on with my computer here, I have not been able to do a heck of a lot of research to prep for today's show. I did come across one thing in my local paper that I wanted to share at some point later, but I thought I'd ask real quick.
Research? Maggot and I have done research for 9 years each, at least.
Well, there you go.
My whole life.
We've been preparing for this show for years.
Yeah. So I'll just sit back and go ahead and let you guys just run your mouths as much as you want. How about that?
You see the movie Short Circuit? Do you know who Johnny Five's based on? Yeah, exactly. 5 is alive, yeah. Don't disassemble! Except I'm not a big fan of 80s music, and I don't think Having a Mohican's cool, except I did when I was about 9.
That Ali Sheedy is a semi-vegetable.
Johnny Five, the whole point was Johnny Five. 5 is V as in V the Invaders, bloody blah blah Venus.
Right. Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah, it all links in. It's all the same concept. Yeah, even goes back to ET. It's the same idea again and again.
Remember the Star Trek 1 that they tried to launch the Paramount Network with? The idea that Voyager would come back and try to take over the whole world and the whole universe.
Yeah, that was a really naff idea. That was supposed to be. I suppose that sounds like the 3 Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch then, because that was what the basic plot was. He went out to the furthest reach of the solar system, came back as a sort of like Borg Jesus Christ thing.
Yeah, a misunderstood Borg Jesus Christ thing.
Yeah, because they all thought he was evil, didn't they? Because he had the robot hand and the robot eye.
But he was also misunderstood. The machine did not mean harm doing this horrible stuff. Thought this was reasonable.
Yeah. Had to do it in order to make people ready for outer space travel or something. Oh, what you were saying earlier about making a Broadway play knowing that it's going to fail. Background storyline to Springtime for Hitler, wasn't it?
Oh no, that's the movie The Producers.
Oh, The Producers.
Was it Gene Wilder and Zero Mostel. It was Mel Brooks' first movie.
That's it. Springtime for Hitler was part of
wasn't that the one that was all silent?
No, it was silent.
What's the one that that Mel Brooks did that was all silent?
It's called The Silent Movie. Mel Brooks Silent Movie.
That's right.
Okay. I thought that was silly. Yeah.
I couldn't remember. I've seen pretty much all of his films, but only like once or twice each, so I was just checking.
Mel Brooks, to get into the to finance and all that, just Jewish, but claimed he had to be financed. But he and Buck Henry wrote Get Smart, which is also super intelligent. The idea that it's not good versus evil, and it's not the Russians versus the United States. You have to realize it's control versus chaos.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a talk shoe reference as well, isn't it? Because I know they could use that before.
That's the dichotomy that people are stuck with now. I'm going to ask permission to... Paul and I were in this discussion last night with the same group that called you Ultimate Mongrel.
From Buck?
That guy Swampy, the Caribbean critic, who's going to come on the show now. I remind him, he says, anytime I want it, no, he'll come on. This guy is from Barbados. He's really on target with this stuff. But we got these people talking about this stuff, because when you present some of the concepts I discussed yesterday, the twin keys that I discovered are missing from the Patriot movement, the false conclusions that are planted, people think that if you don't control people in the Roman way now, the licensing that makes you a child, the limited liability, if you don't do that, it becomes a free-for-all.
Right, exactly.
So it's like Get Smart is not super intelligent. Get Smart might be propaganda because it leads you to believe if it's not overarching control, it's chaos.
Well, sure.
Those are not the two polarities.
Well, but it's like the gal that I talked to who told me that all I did with discovering Freeman was finding a loophole in the laws.
Because she thinks you're going to go steal from people, because the concept of freedom through responsibility, being responsible for yourself, is out of bounds if you've never heard of the Byzantine system.
Well, sure, of course.
The most successful of the Western systems was freedom through responsibility for 1,100 years. There's no other example that ran that long.
Well, but that's exactly what the problem is that people have a tendency to believe that we are free only because somebody gives us the permission to be free, and we have a responsibility to what they tell us to do. You know, it's like a child gains freedom through permissions handed down by the authoritative element of their parent, and we translate that into our governmental system, and that we are only given freedoms when we are handed permissions down by the authority of the government above us, right? That we actually exist under a privilege system as opposed to...
Yeah,
right, as opposed to under a system of rights.
They want to screw themselves.
Well, yeah, of course.
Never going to understand. Never.
Right. Yeah. Well, but the problem is that there's so many of them that just, you know... Again, like I was talking about yesterday, that indoctrination has existed at such a fundamental level, and while Maggot, you there in the UK have been exposed to a different style of system, and Stratios, because your background, your ethnic background, and your raising within that system separates you from the concepts that have dominated so much classic white American society. And then you couple that with the emergent black society that is based upon refuting white as being in power while still going after the same elements of power. You create an entire society that's based around the idea that unless I get what I want, unless I have the power that I want that has to be given to me by somebody else, everything's just stupid, and or it's conspiracy, or it's just wrong, or it's anti-American, or it's unpatriotic. Right, exactly. Exactly. If you don't agree with the official line, if you don't kowtow to the official understanding that is handed down and presented, you're anti-government.
Well, you see why blacks can't fix the problem with the current lies that go on, because they think they have to either ask Whitey for the power, which is bogus,
right,
or conform to Whitey's system, so book learning is being white.
Sure.
And I have nothing in common with this bullshit. I
Oreos.
I can't swear on my own program, and like as if we're bound to like statutory crap.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that we're bound. You can swear. Just I just don't think there's any reason for you to fucking talk like you're a fucking jackass, fucking idiot. You know, that's all I'm saying.
You don't want to rub it in.
Right. That's all I'm saying. Right. Nothing like what Crotch Shop did the first time he was on our show. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that you can't go ahead and use it every once in a while. But anyway, you were saying they either have to.
Zero in common with this Whitey concept. And think that we had the same experience as the American blacks, and we were finding out Whitey.
Right. Well, but as far as they're concerned, they even discriminate within their own groups between high yellows and everything else. Sure. Well, you know, you ain't no real nigga. You ain't no real G. If you aren't a real G, if you aren't a real nigger, if you're not a real, what are you? Do you have to? Do you have to have been born into poverty? Do you have to have grown up in a quote unquote hood to be a real G? Because if that's the case,
in the north now, and they still have a southern drawl to them, which is irrational.
Sure, but I mean, if that's the case, Dr. Dre is not a real G. You know, I mean, the guy grew up middle class and sang in a before he joined NWA, he was part of a group that sang, you know, cheesy pop love songs.
I always like the joke that NWA had to change the offensive A in the name, you know, from attitudes to aptitudes, or no, from aptitudes to attitudes.
They should have changed it to O.
Like that was the offensive element in the title.
So it could no longer be niggers with aptitudes; it had to be niggers with attitudes.
Right.
Jeez, just because, of course, if you mention that you were, that you're black with skills, that's offensive. Jeez, that's. You see, I didn't even know that, and I was an NWA
that's
fan.
The joke line from the '80s. People just
Oh,
missed
okay.
the joke. Nobody seriously. I mean,
Okay. Well, I'm asking if that was a reality or not. I wasn't sure because I was an NWO fan or NWA fan. They were a great group as far as I was concerned. But I was all of like 13 at the time, so I mean, give me a little bit of a break here.
I think I saw Public Enemy on their videos recently. I've seen it before, obviously, when it was like shown in the UK ages ago, and I was just like, "What is this shit?" It was just unbelievable how crap it was.
Yeah. Well, see, they always want to blame James Brown for rap. James Brown, he recorded all of his hits. He recorded in 3 places: Nashville, Cincinnati, and New York. All the hits were recorded in Cincinnati. The guy was a genius, beyond genius. And he reached he achieved his artistic name in '65 when he on the Line of the Apollo album, which is it's very compressed and very manipulated because it's him at his absolute best. But he's able to string together this long sentence of his #1 hits. It has that many #1 hits that he was able to string together enormous sentences of it. Prince also did that to show he had reached the James Brown level. But he was hip to, let's say, 71, doing his greatest material, 71, 72, and then he spent the rest of his life embarrassing himself. Because he was over and he didn't have the good sense to just go somewhere and hide. If you don't have anything, if you're just going to shoot your wife's car and shoot through her fur coat and all, go and hide.
Right.
I mean, there was this great album at Wave. They had a lot of these promo albums. I had a show on WAIF in the 80s, and it was a community radio station. Everybody stole all the records. I should have stolen this record. It had on one side of the record James Brown, and on the other side it was Frank Zappa. And Frank Zappa and James Brown were famous for finding their band, the people in the band, that if they made mistakes, they would be fined $50. Which is a lot of money for your live per diem and all that stuff. I mean, you don't want to lose $50 on a live show. But they show you how it's played right and how it's played wrong. They're little clips. That's what both sides of the record are. You hear each incident played right, played wrong, and you cannot hear it. That's the kind of detail that both Frank Zappa and James Brown were capable of hearing live on stage. You have made an error. Give me $50. You couldn't hear the mistake. And so we used to play this on the air. Just fascinated that you'd sit there and go, okay, this is it right, and this is it wrong. I don't hear it. I wish I had it now because I would do it with Audacity or something, so you could see the difference and see what if you.
Yeah, you can check the waves tables easy. Yeah.
I don't think you can see it.
Yeah.
Well, but I've got a friend of mine who has an ear like that. He's an exceptionally talented guitarist. He's an amazing musician. He actually at his house has all of his speaker wires lifted off the carpet and run on stands because he can hear the static elements that are generated through the speakers when the cable lines between the speaker and the but he can hear it. He can pick up and hear the difference between the two of them. I mean, he can listen to the same song on CD, tape, and a record, an album. And to the rest of us, it sounds, it's the same song. And he can tell you where things are different, how it's changed, what's different, where you're picking up different sounds and noises, and what's been cleaned out, and what's been added, and everything else. And you just sit and you listen to it with them. And he's like, "Did you hear that? Did you hear how that?" And you're like, "No. What are you listening to?" But there are people out there for whom it vibrates at such a level that it makes sense to them. It's like the people that can look at a painting and notice that one small, tiny little dot of white in this whole entire field of ecru. And you're like, I would have to spend hours to find that. And I would have to care enough to spend the hours to find that little dot of white. And they just see it right away. I think it's a combination of training and natural talent. So James Brown and Frank Zappa can do that doesn't surprise me at all because I've known people that have that level of capacity. But to find your musicians over it, wow. That's
They were trying to point out that, boy, these two guys have such a different reputation, different style, but it was the same type of incredible hearing these guys had and the detail.
Sure.
But,
yeah.
I love James Brown. I mean, I study it like it's like rocket science or something. I mean, there's so much to the James Brown stuff. He used to rip you off with the Stones albums. Actually, it's the Stones who copied how James Brown used to rip you off. By putting the same, you have to buy 12 albums to get 2 new tracks.
I see. I think
the albums again.
Yeah.
The Stones copied that method. But there was this guy, the same guy that hung out with Bob Marley to figure out what was going on and wrote that famous Catch a Fire book. His second project, I guess, was he reorganized the James Brown albums and made the CD of JB. He actually made 6 discs that collected everything brilliantly. James Brown had a nervous breakdown and demanded that the rip-off discs go back on the market. That's how he made some money.
Wow.
Some of those original albums were half-hour long, and they contained the same tracks as the previous record, with one new. That's how he made some cash. He was a genius who also knew how to make some cash because there was no hope with this record business who lies to you.
Yeah,
sure.
But he knew both sides of the business. But I still have those 6 discs. The CD of JB 1 and 2, the Messing with the Blues is the cover songs. Roots of a Revolution are the non-hit album tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a super intellectual. The songs are about something. They're not. He was always accused of being like guttural and animalistic. And, it's nothing of the kind. He's a super intellectual.
Do you think that
blues is super intellectual and jazz is Mary Had a Little Lamb by heroin addicts for white intellectuals who are drinking martinis and listening to background music who are not paying attention. Jazz is
No,
for idiots.
no. Jazz is jazz was the music that was created while observing prostitutes.
Even worse. But I mean, it's still Mary Had.
I mean, the term jazz derives itself from the word jasmine, which is what prostitutes in New Orleans and in Alabama across from the Army base in Mississippi wore, and the jazz music originated because peepholes would be put in to these prostitutes' rooms while they were entertaining their clients, and the musicians would actually play beats and musics and rhythms based upon the syncopations of actual sexual activity, and that's how jazz started. I mean, jazz is just pure animalisticism.
Great, it's not intellectual though.
Right? No, nothing. There's nothing intellectual about jazz at all.
Okay, so you agree with my point.
Right, exactly. I was just trying to clarify a couple things about it. That's all. I'm not disagreeing with you.
It's hard to find an opposing because there's so many things.
Well, I could always give you an opposing position. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's based on fact, but I can give you one. It's not hard to do.
I love arguing. No one agrees.
Well, that's because most people are afraid to argue with you. That's why most people yell at me.
Go to the Greek Orthodox Church. They teach the Byzantine system because they're supposed to preserve that because we're in slavery and all. Try to get a cup of coffee. I find it very enjoyable, but God, it doesn't drive people insane.
Sure.
I think it's great. A freaking cup of coffee, they'll argue with you for an hour. And all of them argue to be right. It's like the Byzantine argument method is you're pushing a parade flow. So it's not, if you're attacking the position, you're not attacking me personally. The Western style, the Occidental style is you are the position. So if you're hurting my feelings, you know what I mean?
Right. It's a personal attack.
But I'm hurting your feelings by saying it's 4. I demonstrate I bring 4 stones out. Okay, it's 4. It's 4. I'm hurting you personally. So I've just said something bad about your mothers.
And my race, and my culture, and my intelligence, and my parents, and my progeny, and my everything else. It's you have violated the entirety of the system that my life is based upon.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just a minor point. But they
Right.
feel that way. They feel that way. And the Byzantine system is a Oriental Greek concept, not the Occidental Greeks who are lesser. It's the Western style. It really sucks. The Oriental style, you are pushing a parade float. And if I'm pushing a parade float that says 2 + 2 is 5, and I find out that's factually incorrect, I'm jumping off that thing. I don't want to drive the wrong parade. I don't want to win in the foot race because I shot the other people who were, you know what I mean, so they don't make it to the finish line. Just
Right. You didn't win the foot race. You just won by default.
Yeah, that's not.
You won because you eliminated all of your competition. It's like becoming the sole heir of the kingdom by eliminating all of your competition.
In the Lavender Hill mob, Alec Guinness kills all the people to get to the lordship or the dukeship or whatever.
Right, exactly.
Is that a movie? I haven't heard of that one. Sounds alright.
What?
Is that a movie? Lavender Hill Mob?
A lot of the early Ealing comedies with Alec Guinness are brilliant. And one of them is the Lavender Hill Mob, where he plays his own relatives, male and female. And he's the 12th or 13th Earl of something.
Yeah.
And he ends up having to kill all the people in the way.
Yeah, 1951.
Yes, it's brilliant.
Yeah, that's Alec Guinness ended up his last role was Star Wars, wasn't it? As Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, he played Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I think that was his last role.
That's why when they try to do the prequels, to play Obi-Wan Kenobi, they have the people imitate Alec Guinness in his
Liam Neeson.
Well, they had to get Ewan McGregor.
Yeah,
they had to find a British actor who could.
It's less about reading the lines as it is about copying.
Yeah, they got to imitate him.
Well,
he's got to act like
reinterpreting. It's reinterpreting the mannerisms.
Yeah. Alec Guinness he was part of that Ealing system, and they've really made some good movies there for a while.
Yeah, he wasn't very good in Star Wars, but never mind. He just gave the impression of he being too drunk. He was like drunk on set all the time, apparently. I think he was pretty much...
Hey, just real quickly, who's beeping in the background there?
Oh, that's fire in the house.
Oh. Cool, excellent. Fantastic.
Woohoo! Last show with Maggot if he burns to the ground.
So yesterday would have been the last show with Lenny. Today's the last show with Maggot. Tomorrow it's just going to be me talking to you for 3 hours, folks. So I hope you're prepared for that.
Yeah, it'll be you and Peter from New Zealand.
Right, exactly. Exactly. You know, having spoken with him once, I'm okay with him.
In Star Wars, 20 bottles of vodka in the Millennium Falcon, in all the storage bays, and I've heard loads of stories about how drunk he was.
Well, they had no control over anything. They're playing to green screens. I mean, what kind of...
That's it, yeah. He was just like, at his age, how is he going to be? You know, he's going to be like, what the fuck's this all about?
I think I always draw it in the background.
I just some fucking drooling old hippie. I can't be arsed with
Wait a minute. What green screens? You mean the Millennium Falcon isn't real? You mean Star Wars isn't real?
Well, they made setup mock-ups. Yeah. Well, Star Wars
you have totally and completely destroyed my entire existence. Thank you very much. Star Wars is next. You're going to tell me that Barack Obama isn't president of the United States.
He isn't. Lenny Bruce is.
Well, that's fine. I can accept that, I guess.
Yeah. I think pretty much anybody could usurp Obama.
You would think so, but you're lucky you're in the UK. Try and say that here in the United States, you'll get a vast group of people that will lynch you.
Yeah, apparently he hasn't been on TV. Yeah, apparently he's been hiding away from TV recently as well. Barack Obama, that's what I heard. One of my sources. Really crazy woman, but never mind. Yeah,
when are we going to get Mrs. Perry on? Because we want to eliminate some of these illusions.
Yeah, well, best of luck to you on that is all I'm saying, because you run a high probability of just being hung up on.
See, I don't do that. If someone knows something and I'm wrong, I want to know the answer. I don't want to win if I'm wrong.
Oh, but you see, you have to remember is that there are huge groupings of people in this country who don't want to know if they're wrong. They've already decided that they're right.
That's what I want to avoid. You know,
but unfortunately, that's a huge cross section of people, and that's one of the reasons that I have such a hard time being able to discuss these things, is because so many of them are convinced from the get-go that they are right, and the only reason you're arguing with them or discussing anything with them is because you're trying to prove them wrong. Not because you're trying to share truth, but because you're trying to prove them wrong. And people hate being proved wrong. People in this country want to, for the most part, believe that what they believe is absolute truth. And you get into arguments and discussions with them, and they source their sense of being true out of their belief, not out of any evidence. This is why I run into people who get mad and pissed off at me and yell and scream at me for hours and hours and hours on end about how all I'm trying to do is prove them wrong, and when all I'm trying to do is just share truth with them. I'm not trying to prove you wrong, but if you think I'm trying to prove you wrong, maybe you should be paying attention to the fact that you possibly could be wrong. Oh, no. That couldn't be the case, because they have to be right.
And they won't look at it.
No, of course they won't.
Yeah, I know what you mean, yeah.
They won't look at it.
They'll just go around their circular little argument and avoid anything that's like any of the sort of reality that's outside it.
No, but I think those people should never be allowed any kind of responsibility or any kind of privilege. They should be locked in mental hospital. If you cannot be wrong and you will not look at the evidence, you're not only are you not an adult, you're not even a child. You are some sort of mental deficient.
No,
I agree completely and totally.
You should give him a job as a supervisor. That's what happens in the Johnson. Yeah.
And when I do my research, especially a lot of this stuff for the trying to figure the NWO, I look for contrary views. I look for, I mean, am I going to be, what, or if I tell people what to search terms to look at in Google, what will they find?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? What kind of, is it possible they'll run into the wrong link and miss the point? You know, I work all this stuff out. I don't go into a situation blind. Imagine I told you some advice, it doesn't work out, and you come back and say, well, the reason I haven't seen you for a year is I went to jail doing this Freeman stuff.
And it's your fault.
I'll kill myself. I'm not going to give you advice knowing it's going to fail, or even if it does fail, I take responsibility. I live and die on my advice. I'm a Mac consultant and a computer consultant. My voodoo works. I don't fail at it. It works. When I get done, it functions. And I get to a point where I'm finished.
But then again, I think that's a rather significant difference, and I can speak for myself really only in an authoritative capacity for it, but based upon your comments, I can probably say the same thing in relation to you, Stratios, and I would like to be able to say the same thing for Maggot, but I don't know for sure, so I won't. I don't support any idea or any concept or belong to any system, society, or thought process unless I have spent a sufficient amount of time investigating and cross-coordinating with all the thought processes that attempt to debunk it. I mean, when I first came into the World Freeman Society, when I first started looking into it, saw my first Menard film and started making notes and the following things, my first step wasn't to go straight to the World Freeman Society webpage and join the society. I spent 6 months plus reading law texts, going through and checking definitions in Black's Law Dictionary and the Columbia Law Dictionary and the Coolidge Law Dictionary, and reading up on the Uniform Commerce Code and looking into all of these things so that by the time I made the choice to join the society, I knew that what I was joining had a validity to it, that if I'm questioned, I can back up not just because I think it says that, or I believe it says that, or I want it to say that, but because, boom, go to this. You don't even have to go online. Go to your local library and pull it up and find it. You walk into your local library. Every local library should have a copy of Black's Law Dictionary. Go ahead and pull it out and read through the definitions. Pull that out and pull out a copy of the Oxford American English Dictionary and compare what the definitions are. You will find huge differences, and you start to realize that there's a big difference. You want to know what the Uniform Commerce Code says? Don't just take my word for it. I'm sorry, Uniform Commercial Code, I'm sorry. I apologize.
By the time you're done, you made your point a year ago.
It's advertising standards book, isn't it? Yeah.
I hate those people who don't listen to you because they're trying to come up with what to say. I had what I was going to say. I was trying to listen to you.
Yeah, blame him. It's fault.
Sure, blame me. That's fine. Go ahead.
No, I came up with what I was going to say. I forgot already.
Yeah.
I try to listen to you. It's going so slowly. I'm going to tell you that the grass is green sometimes, but maybe it's blue. And then I wanted to say,
The grass is green except it's blue when it's injected with Viagra.
it took that long to get. I'm sorry. But then I speak too quickly, so you can't win.
Right? So it's a catch-22. Right? My only point being, and I'll be brief, you have to take the time to understand and know what it is that you're talking about before you open your mouth. And most people out there that are arguing with you here in the United States, and I can't speak for any other country, but here in the United States, most people that will argue with you are doing so because they have already conceded that they are right with no proof.
don't tell you what to believe. So that's okay. How about that? We have proof.
So they only argue because they want to prove their point. Yeah.
Well, sure.
I know exactly.
They have to be right.
And when they're arguing, it's actually you were listening to a pre-recorded message, really.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And you challenge anything about that pre-recorded message, they just hit rewind and start the pre-recorded message over from the beginning.
Yeah, I really...
Exactly. Yeah, it's like burnt into their brains. I mean, you know about neural tracks, whatever they're called. You know, like everything you do burns a neural pathway.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And the more things you do, the more times you do something. If you do something 5,000 times, it becomes a habit, sort of thing.
Right.
And so they just got into the habit of the argument, and so you're just speaking to a pre-recorded message, sort of thing, like an answer phone. It's it's a common phenomenon. There's ways around it. You psychological shock tactics that can break them out of it. But yeah, I mean, most people just talk in a trance anyway. There's nothing new to that at all. It's pretty much what it's used for, is voice tones to send you to sleep.
Sure. Well, but that's exactly what it is. It's our educational system here in the U.S. is based upon installing and instigating and creating an automatic rote response that isn't thought about. You ask a junior or senior in high school here, what party affiliation are you? And their knee-jerk response is going to be either what their parents believe, or they're going to knee-jerk response the opposite of what their parents believe because they want to be rebellious. Now, they haven't thought about or radically critiqued or understood what they're being asked. They just have been trained into a knee-jerk response. You know, it's why you can walk down the street here in the U.S. and walk up to somebody and say, "Hey, who's your vote for American Idol?" And they can answer you right away, and then you say, "Okay, who are you voting for your local representative or senator?" What? There's an election this year? Yeah. It's because people are programmed to believe and accept certain things as being absolute or important. Just to backtrack a bit here, Stratios, when I think I jumped in and started talking and broke you away from your whole mindset, we were talking about knowing what it is that knowing the point that you were arguing from and understanding what you were arguing from and the difference between believing your point with no evidence versus accepting being wrong about something. I didn't know if that would bring you back to the thought process that you were at earlier. But yeah, I agree with you. I think most people don't want to accept that they're wrong about anything.
Oh no, I'm thrilled to find out I'm wrong. I'm thrilled to find out if what I have thought was true. If there's evidence even for the contrary, or you know what I mean. If I find it's completely wrong, I want to know the answer. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It doesn't hurt my feelings. I want to know the right answer.
Right. So do I.
That's standard that I was talking about.
I want to be wrong.
Well, I want to be right, but I mean, not at the cost of being factually correct.
Sure. Sure. I would rather have somebody come up and say to me, "You're wrong," and then give me the evidence that supports not only why I'm wrong, but the evidence to allow me to understand what is right. And I don't think that's transmitted in the Roman westernized society.
On purpose. It's a control system. The business
Sure.
system's the opposite. That's
Right.
Yeah.
Well, in explaining this last evening to Mrs. Perry, the whole idea that...
Can you arrange a shock chair for us?
I wish I could.
Yeah. Is she your wife now? I didn't realise you're married to her now.
Oh yeah, no, I've been married. It'll be what 8 years in June. I've been married.
Wow.
Yeah.
7-year itch still. 7-year itch. Still a chance. Might all break up and go disastrously wrong.
Hey, it's been close a few times.
You've seen the movie, haven't you? 7-year itch. I don't know. If you haven't, just like quote one,
sure.
please.
Sure. Well, we made it past the 7-year itch, so that's it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, that's a true statement. But I cannot be held accountable for somebody else's opinion, even though I'm married to them. Especially when you consider that when I married them, their understanding of politics and the economy and even any existence of any of this stuff was far less than even where I was 5 years ago.
But how far does it go? CFR, does the building exist?
CFR? Her
what? To put the CFR picture on the cover of Myron Fagan's album was because people used to deny the building was there. Let alone it didn't exist, but the building didn't exist.
Well, but to put it into coordinate conception based upon my wife, the term CFR means nothing. You say Council on Foreign Relations, and all it comes across is, what's that?
Well, I mean,
not even that's a group of people or anything. What the heck is that?
Complete fucking rubbish.
But when you look at the commenters on the news, you watch MSNBC or Fox?
No, we don't have cable, so it doesn't make any difference.
Which news?
She only watches Good Morning America on ABC.
Okay, Good Morning, isn't that ABC?
Yes.
It's hosted by Diane Sawyer now, right?
No. Diane Sawyer hosts the evening news on ABC.
Oh, they moved
and while I know she's on the CFR board, or at least was in 2009.
Right. And so is Barbara Walters, and so is everybody on the channels. Everybody. And the
doesn't matter to her.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter to her. It's not important. She looks at that and goes, oh, conspiracy theory, blah blah blah, whatever.
It's their public membership list.
I understand that, and I realize that, but if you try to explain what the CFR actually does, I don't want to hear this stuff.
Okay, you're going to want to get these eye clips. I'll give you a clip from Clockwork Orange, and then a shock chair of some sort.
I'm fine with that.
The clips are really important.
Well, actually, what I'm at a point of is letting her watch Invisible Empire. And making her sit and watch that, because she's intelligent enough to grasp and piece together and understand all this. She's not an idiot. She's intelligent.
Important? Because if you actually will deny reality in the face of evidence, the Earth is flat. Gravity is a conspiracy theory. I mean, if you're willing to deny reality in the face of evidence, obvious evidence, it only works one way. That's fundamental. That's not we have a difference of opinion. There's something wrong.
But if I can for just a quick second, denying fact in the face of evidence, first of all, comes with the understanding that you paid any attention to the evidence in the first place.
Can you hear this?
It's like the judge flipping the piece of paper over that your affidavit is printed on, going, I don't see. Well, the fact is that the piece of paper is sitting there right in front of the judge and has your affidavit on it. But if they flip it over and it's a blank piece of paper on the other side and they say, I don't see it, that's still fact. And it's fact being asserted despite evidence that can be available to them. So if there is a total negation of even paying attention to the evidence, whatever factual level that evidence actually has means nothing. And that's how people defend ignorance, is by claiming, well, I don't know anything about that, so it can't be real. Well, but I've got all this evidence right here that I can show. I don't see that. It's not real. I don't see that, and I don't have to. And forcing it on me means you're trying to push your agenda on me. And everything else that's out there is part of the free press media, and if the information you were trying to share with me was real, our free media would have told me about it already. That's not denying evidence, that's not denying fact, that's supplanting perception of evidence with perception of the lie. And if it's based upon what you perceive, people have a tendency to almost always agree that their perception is the evidence of fact. You get a bunch of colorblind people and show them a red dot and they tell you it's gray. Well, if all you're doing is drawing from a group of people who are all colorblind, how do you know that the spot isn't gray? If everyone in the test group states that it is, you know, it's that type of idea. It's having been presented with evidence means that you have to have accepted that evidence has any factual basis. And that's why I draw it back to the judge turning the piece of paper over with the affidavit on it and saying, I don't see it. It's right there in front of him, or her, or whatever, but they can claim that they don't see it simply by negating its existence by not looking at it. Well, not looking at it doesn't mean that it isn't there. You know, I don't have to look at and see the bullet that pierces my side and plunges into my heart for the bullet to be real. But people will tell you that that's the case. If I didn't see it happen, if I didn't experience it happening, if I choose not to pay attention to it, it must not be real. And that's what you run up against so much out there. It's not that people lack any capacity to understand it, but that they choose not to. They don't want to pay any attention to it. They don't even look at it. Because they know that if they look at it, they're going to have to question. And they don't want to have to question. They just want to be told what to do. How many people go to church to be told how to vote, how to think, how to act, how to live, how to treat other people? Thousands, millions. I mean, it's one thing to make the statement that people should know this stuff, and not knowing the stuff means that they aren't paying attention. It's another thing to realize that choosing not to pay attention gives to them their sense of justification that it can't be real. Well, it can't be real because I decided it isn't. Well, you can't. That's a very difficult wall to get past. A person's decision to ignore something is a very difficult thing to get past. Because you have to be able to present it in terms that they cannot ignore. It's really easy to turn off the TV, or to turn off a movie, or to turn off the radio, or walk away from somebody, or not listen to them. Because you don't want to have to deal with what they're talking about. And people do that constantly because it gives them a sense of personal security that their belief system is coordinated around reality. Because they refuse to expose themselves to things that force them to call things into question. Which once again ties into the idea that, Lenny, you and I both love when somebody can provide evidence that shows that we're wrong about something. Because it's important for us to be able to admit that we're wrong about something. So many people don't want to do that. So many people want to always be right.
Can you see where it says T3 timeout? Yeah, that's the information they need to know because something's wrong on your end.
It's unfortunate, but it's true. I'm here, I'm done.
The line's really choppy.
I'm back.
That was me tirading there for a moment, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all enjoyed it.
Order of fries and chips and...
Not yet, but I'll get to that. Can you give me another 5 minutes? Yeah.
We pick on you. It's really unfair, too. It's not fair at all.
I'm not worried about it in the least bit.
We really
Pick on
like
you
you.
as much as you
You know what I mean? But I just can't help it. It drives me up the wall. You know, sometimes I just sit on my hands.
That's
I can't
good.
communicate. If I don't have my hands, I can't communicate.
Woohoo!
What you don't get about... I've never done the camera thing, so you can see. I have to gesture the whole time I talk.
Oh, I gesture the whole time I talk as well. I just don't limit myself.
Diagrams. I need charts and graphs to make my presentations. It's really awful.
Do you? Yeah.
And you see, the difference is that I choose to do it with words instead of charts and graphs.
Yeah, no, the words come out. I just need the extra motion to go with it. If I sit on my hands, nothing comes out of my mouth.
Yeah. It took me years to sort of like train myself using facial expressions when I talk.
Sure. Well, you know, it's like the
like some sort of like paralyzed victim or something sometimes.
I was in New York City.
One year,
I
I
was
was
walking down
not
the
smart
street.
for a whole year. Best year ever.
Walking down the street, I was trying to find Fern Street. I found this guy. He was carrying a couple watermelons, and he was Italian. And I asked him where Fern Street was, and he spent 5 minutes setting these watermelons down on the trunk of or the hood of this car that was on the side of the road park, just so he could pull his hands up in front of me and go, "I don't know where Furnace Street is." I imagine that's probably you, Estratios. If your hands were full, you couldn't answer a question for me.
Oh, I can. I see that.
Well, that's good.
Oh yeah.
Not to offend Italians.
Line's really bad at the moment. I know what you mean. You can't speak unless it's sanctuary.
Right. Exactly.
But no, where I'm going with this is people now, especially through fear, even they will. They've trained themselves to speak only in cliches and gestures. Even there's certain coded words that don't mean anything. That's. I never do that. I only because I was like ADD and stuff, and it's taken years with the Dexedrine to undo this stuff. It turns cow paths into major highways, but I never had any interest in gestures and the things people. When I hear people talk, I see text in my head. You know what I mean? I don't care if you're crying it or screaming it or reading it or you know what I mean.
Sure.
I'm listening to the text of what people are saying, and I know it, and I give the wrong facial, you know, or I have a dead facial expression or whatever. I'm interested in the real communication of it, and many people cannot hear what I'm saying because I don't speak in the coded gestures you're supposed to use.
Oh, sure. No, I get that an awful lot myself. I'll say things, and people will take me absolutely seriously when all I've been is sarcastic and joking, and because I haven't coordinated with particular accepted forms of facial and physical gestures.
In Mike Judge's movie Idiocracy, where if you do talk like I do, you're seen as faggy and effeminate.
Right, exactly.
Because that's a bullying technique that they plan that they've been doing so far. That imagine just showing how far it can go in the future, but it's a bullying technique to get you not to think, but to speak only in weird gestures.
Go away, Peyton!
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Well, but and that's I completely concur with that idea. It's one of the things about that movie that I found that amusing, because when the wife and I first moved from Oregon back to this small little town here in Michigan, I started doing construction full-time, and the people that I worked with, after about the first 6-7 months or so that I worked there, I wound up being put into a position where I had to work with one of the other individuals on a crew. He and I eventually became really good friends, but he had told me at one point that he was really, really upset that he had to work with me because he figured that I thought that I was better than everyone else. And it was purely because my gestures, my posture, and my physical body language did not coordinate with their physical gestures and body language. And because I didn't stand around grabbing my crotch and picking my ass and picking my nose and spitting and flicking my cigarettes wherever I wanted to, that I was being trying to come across as being superior without paying any attention to the fact that I just am not that type of person.
Right.
It wasn't that I thought that I was better than anyone else. I just wasn't the exact same as all of them. But the idea is that I was being antagonistic through it.
I've gotten all kinds of weird reactions. I was trained in this really closed Byzantine system. We were very foreign towards the 85 because we're Asian minors. We're not Greek Greeks. And
right, and you're not even white, according to whites, and you're not, and you're not non-white according to non-whites. So,
but people really misinterpret things that I thought were perfectly okay. Types of argument styles, things that I would say. People misinterpret because it's been whitewashed out of our society. It's not only fundamental to America; it's essential to America, and these things have been removed.
Sure.
I thought it was because it was Greek. I thought, well, nobody's heard of it. But no, these things were formerly the norm here.
Right.
Until, the 50s or whatever. And they've been trying to get rid of it since 1776. But the real push came in 1913 when the Federal Reserve was able to start foreclosing on people and forcing the education system to change.
Right.
But the things that I was being taught at the Greek church, not religious, the only teach religion in the church. Everything else is trying to teach the governmental Byzantine system outside of the building itself, and the other activity. Those things that they were teaching us, and they never explained this to us, are the fundamental American stuff that everyone's supposed to know. And they weren't doing it for that reason. But that they happen to be the same things. They shouldn't have been that foreign. But for the fact of our school system now is the polytechnical system of Eastern Europe.
Well, you have to remember too that our public education system was set up and devised and pushed by people like Andrew Carnegie and Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan Chase and individuals who stood to benefit from coordinating an entire generation plus of people who were trained to do grunt work for the elite. I had after AOL and Time Warner merged back in the mid-90s, and I saw that happen and realized that those two companies owned huge groups of other companies that made competing products, and all of a sudden the top tier was making all of the money off of all of these competing products. So whether you bought this kind of toilet paper or that kind of toilet paper, the same people were benefiting and everything. I went to an economics professor at the university that I was attending and asked her, she was a dean of the economics program there, I asked her, and laid it all out in black and white, and said, isn't this a new form of feudalism? She got so pissed off at me that I would even question.
That's meant to turn you away and make you never think these thoughts again.
Right. Oh, she just got vehemently pissed off at me and kicked me out of her office for even asking the question. For even
one that can see.
Right, there's somebody out there that's actually paying attention. Yeah. No, this can't happen.
Did she yell into her watch at the time?
She came running out of the office.
I don't remember if she did or not. I don't know for sure, but I get the point. But
you're stabbing me! Stabbing me!
Yeah. Stop him!
Right, but it was just portrayed so constantly as being, well, this is exactly what should be happening. This is exactly how it should work. This is where things are supposed to go. Who are you to question this? You're not even part of the business department. You're not part of the economics department. Why are you even in here asking these questions? What do you know about any of this stuff? And all I could think is, I'm double majoring in political science and philosophy. I probably have a better grasp of how the economics affect other things than you do, because all you're doing is crunching numbers. And all I did was ask you a question. And you're going to sit there and vilify me for asking a question? Well, you don't do that unless you've got something to hide.
Yeah.
You know? It's you don't get pissed off at people. Well, right, exactly.
I can stab you. I can stab the others.
They can't challenge you in public, they have to come and get you privately and silence you.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, they can't. Yeah, they can never say anything in public. It's like, yeah. It's always they've always got that. Step outside, sir. That's not tactic.
Right, they got. They have crap. To totally.
Yeah, they try that in pubs. Yeah.
Every one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, they try that in pubs as well. It's like you have an argument with someone in a pub, and they're like, "Step outside." Well, it's like fuck you.
Right. Take you out of public. Take you out of where anyone can see you. Take you out of wherever. Yeah.
Here, in front of everybody.
Step outside where everyone's just going to look at you like you're a raving idiot.
Yeah, you've got a knife. Yeah, you want me to stand in that darkened alleyway where you've got a knife and you're going to put it to my throat. Yeah, very clever. I'm really going to do that when I've got 50 people around me. You've got
right,
everything
exactly.
You're going to say and do. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what you...
But, no, I do.
If you're in a pub, you've got to use the pub against the other person. I mean, you know, regardless of their opinion, they're still witnesses to whatever happens. Just by being there. And if they deny it when you're... Well, that's a
sure. You put them on the spot, you put them in a place where they actually have to issue a real opinion, and all they're going to do is totally fight against you and ridicule you and do everything they can to control the situation. Because...
Yeah.
Right. They want to make sure that you feel worthless for even having asked the question.
They approached you in a public place. Yeah. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
If they approach you in a public place and ask you a question that's like they want you to answer in private, that's just ridiculous. Yeah.
Sure.
You should be answering in the same place.
Right.
Yeah. You can't pan it down to when it suits them. They've gone and interrupted your time. Asking you a question that's interrupting your private time, asking you a private question. It's like we have to answer in public, and you have to answer knowing that everybody around is going to possibly be hearing.
Well, and that's why
that happens. Yeah, it's really sad tactics that they used to kill people in general. But I mean, it's one of the bad tactics that drunks use.
And I annoy people and piss people off. Because they'll come up to me and say, "Excuse me, I want to talk to you real quick." About what? It's a private matter. I've got nothing private among these people that I'm hanging out with. Anything you want to ask me in private, you can ask me in front of all of them. Well, I don't want to. Okay, well, it must not be that important.
No, it's because they can't challenge you because it's not factual. They want to defeat you by knifing you.
Right, exactly. So, and people get pissed off at me because I won't let somebody go, "Hey, come here for a second, let me talk to you." No. Ask me right here. Well, it's a private matter. I don't have any private...
Yeah. It's total bullshit anyway. I mean, even, like, secret stuff, like, proper secret stuff, like top secret stuff in public, it's done under that guise because people just gloss over it. If you want to tell somebody like the secret whereabouts of the warehouse and you need to tell them that instant, then you're that disorganized that you need to take them away into private. It's just rubbish. It's a total sign of lack of security on your part. So I mean, if you want to say a secret like, I don't know, Alex Jones is gay or something like that in the pub to somebody, then you just go up to them and say, "Oh, Alex Jones is gay." You don't think like, "Let me pull you aside a bit. You know it's Alex Jones' character." This is stupid. And that's how it's done. It's just because people gloss over it and they're all witness to it and all that and stuff that we say. Those people are really boring. They're the ones that try and drag you away and stuff. It's like, no, you're going to try and group you or something.
Hi, we're not home. Leave a message.
Hello. Oh, you're broken up. Yeah. That was funny. No, it's just like it's like breaking up all the time. Yeah. Yeah, it's annoying, all the embarrassing pauses and stuff. Like what I'm saying, it's like so important. Oh yeah.
Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're enjoying our continuing issues here. So I'm sorry to rejoin the conversation right in the middle of whatever you guys are talking about now.
Oh yeah. I'll just close what I was saying anyway. Yeah, if you do want to say something a secret to somebody in public, you just say it quietly. That's all you need to do.
Right.
You don't take them away from the public scene, because that way you know public notices. That's all there is. No sort of sneery sort of mafia style tactics. That never works. Everybody's seen it before.
Right,
somebody gets dragged off out of a club by somebody who still walked in.
Sure. Now, if you have something you want to discuss with me privately,
and you don't know it's public.
Well, yeah. If you've got something you want to discuss with me privately,
well, that's it.
Call me at home. Yeah. Show up at my house. Yeah. If I'm out in a public place and you suddenly show up and you walk up to me and say, "Hey, I want to talk to you about what?" Not here. Okay, then why did you approach me in a public place? Just come with me. No.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not happening.
No, it's
you got something to talk to me about.
It's you got something you know. It's so important that you've got to. Yeah.
Right, exactly. It's so important you had to track me down to a public place to ask me to talk privately. Not happening.
Yeah.
You got something you want to talk to me about? Talk to me about it. If not, we obviously have nothing to talk about. If you're too afraid to mention it publicly, it must not be that important, except just to you. In which case, I don't care.
Yeah.
Sure. So, yeah.
Yeah. And if it is really private, then you can always say it quietly so that nobody else hears. Yeah.
All right. Well, I just kind of
special,
got trapped in both of your conversations. So. Sorry. Go ahead. One at a time, please.
Well, that was it. It was the same thing. Just.
Sure.
Yeah.
Total hypocrisy.
It is, and usually the person that tries to do that thing is a bit mentally unbalanced on average, I've noticed. So they're sort of making a scene of themselves by marching in. I must speak to you privately. It's like, well, why can't you've done it any other time?
Yeah, but then they're the same people who turn around and say, well, if you can't just talk to me out in public, then it must not be that important. Yet they can't talk to you because they have to tell you in private, you'd better not, or the Knights of Columbus will come and kill you,
Yeah, right, exactly.
That Knights of Columbus is the brute squad for the Jesuit order, because usually the priests will come beat you up, so they have their Knights of Columbus brute squad. That's the function of the Knights of Columbus, and they don't even know. They don't know why they do what they do.
Yeah.
They're just brute squad.
Well, if the guy comes up to you, he's from the Knights of Columbus, then he's got to have identification for showing that he's from the Knights of Columbus, and because he's approached you in a public place, he's got to be asked that. And you can't take somebody away and say, "I work for a secret society, it's called this, and we're unhappy with your behaviour." No, that doesn't happen. That's phony agents and stuff. People on power trips.
Mm-hmm.
I'll pretend I work for a secret society, and I'll get him really scared, and then I'll bring him really close, say I've got a secret, and then I'll hit him.
And they're compartmentalized. They don't know why they have to do it. They've been ordered to do this, and they've sworn to all their oaths and everything, so then they take blind orders.
Yeah. That happened to me one time in the toilets. There was this real jerk, and he hit this girl for the events and stuff. He was a real idiot anyhow. And it's like I apparently giving her the eye and stuff, and they were just dancing for ages, and there's nobody else in the club that was remotely interesting. The woman was reasonably attractive, and I'd spoken to her loads of times and stuff. And it's like, as I went to the toilet, have a wee or something, and just normal reason, just without knowing he was in there. He was in there, and he went, come here, I've got something to tell you. And I was like, and he was saying all this secret stuff, and he's like, oh, we got you under observation or some crap like that.
Well, that's just testing out.
And he goes, oh, I'm really blah blah. And it's like, I've got something to tell you. Yeah. Was it? I fell for it one time, but I never fallen for it. And then I went closer, and he hit me on the back of the head really hard. And that's it? That was the message? Yeah. Sucks.
That's the message.
Yep.
These aren't intellectual.
Yeah.
Definitely a message.
Yeah, that was it. That was... It was just a trick. Yeah, it was a trick. There was no message. He just wanted to hit me. And he set up the whole... No, this is guys quite powerful. He set up the whole night. Most of the people there are agents of his. And, just sort of embarrassingly it happened. And I was like... I fell down, I was like... I was really pissed. But, yeah, I was more pissed off at him for doing that and disappeared. And of course everybody denied that they even saw him. You know, until about a week later, when they suddenly remembered when he gone. Yeah, he was like, he was claiming he was like one of the secret families or something. There's a lot of weird stuff happening at the time. There always is in my life, and it's like he was there acting like he was going to explain it all, and so I fell for it that one time. But yeah, that was the whole reason for me bringing up that stupid private-public thing.
Well, yeah,
but,
exactly.
Yeah, he's well known as to be unbalanced.
Mm-hmm.
So don't fall for that, kids. Don't ever fall for that routine. If somebody wants to, you know, if somebody's got something to say to you, they can say it to your face. So you don't need to get close enough that they can hit you.
Yeah.
If they're going to have to drag you, well, yeah.
Well, my favorite thing is they'll do that to even a phone call. You'll get a phone call. Hi, is Mr. Don Perry there? Is Mr. Perry there? Can I ask who's calling? Well, this is a so-and-so from such and such company. Okay, and this is about, well, it's a private business matter. Okay, so you're calling the public a phone, really?
They've already
discuss a private business matter with somebody. I've obviously answered the phone and indicated to you that I'm the agent for this individual. If it's a private business matter, you're making the assumption that I don't have the capacity to understand the private business matter. So then I go ahead and let them know, yes, I'm Mr. Perry, how can I help you? Well, Mr. Perry, you owe us, excuse me, do I have a contract with you? What? You're telling me I owe you stuff. Do I have a contract with you? Well, I don't know that. So this isn't really a private business matter, is it? And the best thing is what I found is that when I don't answer unknown phone calls or blocked calls or anything else, they've even hit a point now where they'll have somebody from the office call on a personal cell phone.
Yeah, because you can't do a reverse phone lookup on that.
Well, not on unknowns and everything else, but I've had them start to call me from private cell phone numbers. Just so that I will answer the phone.
I get that all the time. I try to ignore them.
Well, I ignore them as much as possible. Because the moment
you've answered the phone...
It was a cell phone number that popped up. I was like,
you've got to find out who's calling.
Right, and they'll never tell you. They'll never give you any information until you admit to being the person they're looking for. And you don't have to provide any proof of that. All you have to do is just admit it, and then they'll start talking to you, and then all you have to do is say, do I have a contract with you? And they will get so upset with you that they'll hang up on you. But they're once again trying to create a private conversation over a public information exchange. You know, somebody walks up to you in a bar and says, I want to have a private conversation with you. Yeah, okay, that's great. Fine, thanks. I appreciate you letting me know. I'll let you know when I'm ready to have that with you. I said I want to have a private conversation now. Like that, no, you didn't. Like... You said you wanted to have a private conversation with me. Now, you may want it to be now, but good luck with that. I don't know what it is that makes people believe that they have power and authority, but
I just want to interrupt your leisure time, sir.
Right, exactly. Exactly. I just wanted to have a private conversation with you to make sure that our watches were both coordinated the same time zone. That's all. Yeah. I refuse, absolutely refuse to allow anyone to create a level of assumed power over me. I actually wrote a paper when I was in college on the two different kinds of power that actually exist. the first of which being inherent power, and the second of which being assumed power. And inherent power is the power that exists without any coordination or contemplation or control external to it. For example, a thunderstorm has an inherent level of power. It does. A battery has an inherent level of power. Assumed power is the power that you believe that a thing believes has an existence over somebody else, which means government, business, banking, interpersonal human relations are all levels of assumed power. Well, no one has any level of assumed power over me unless I let them get away with it, which once again ties right back into the Freeman society element, in which everyone is equal under the law. You walk into a courtroom, the judge assumes that they have power over the situation. They don't, but they have assumed that they do, and they're banking on your concession to that assumption. So, anytime somebody tries to express that they have power over you, it's always an assumed level of power. And they do it based out of a threat. Well, threat doesn't give power. Threat is a coercion, and coercion is an assumed level of control based upon threat of whatever, whether it's against your life or somebody else's life. It's an assumed level of power and control, period. Well, and if that's the case, I've got, nothing that I've got to worry about, because if it's an assumed level of power, it doesn't exist. You know? I apologize. I may have gone off on a little bit of a tangent there for our listeners out there, but the reason that I bring that up is because when somebody comes up to you and says, I want to talk to you about something in private, I want to blah, blah, blah now or whatever, that's an assumed level of power. It doesn't exist. It's not real. You know, it's what the whole basis of the Freeman society is around.
Yeah, setting up a power base over you that doesn't even exist.
Right.
It doesn't exist. Not in a democracy or a republic or anything else. If they're a really important person, they'd have ID and they'd have it and so on and forth. It's exact same as knock on your house and say, "Excuse me, can I come into your house and talk to you for a bit?" Well, it's like, well, where's your identification? You know, it's like you're not the police. You're not in plain clothes. If you're plain clothes, you wouldn't even ask me that. You know, you're just some stranger. So no, bug off.
Right.
Slam the door in their face.
And that's
then
one of the...
They keep knocking on the door and harassing you, then you can call the police, escorted away from the property. It's an extreme example. Yeah, you can continue to threaten to do that, but yeah, it's the same basic point. You know, they got to be able to identify who they are, and if they can't identify who they are, then they're just trying to put power over you.
Business card, badge, and ID.
Right. Well, and again, that's why I brought up that.
Police business.
Excuse me, are you operating as a peace officer?
You're interfering with police business. I'll arrest you right now.
Are you operating as a police?
I don't have to
peace
answer your
officer?
questions. I'm arresting you now.
Are you operating as a peace officer?
Let me in now.
I'm trying to ascertain and ask questions to make sure that I fully comprehend what you're stating. Are you acting as a peace officer?
The Americans are going to kill us.
Well, we got a car waiting outside, and we're going to take you over to the office.
Are you acting as a peace officer? Are you acting as a peace officer? Are you acting as a peace officer? You can yell and scream any threats at me as long as you want, but until you've answered my question, I'm under no obligation to coordinate with whatever it is that you're looking for. Until you've answered my question,
drawn into coercion with sort of thing.
Until you've answered the questions, I have absolutely zero responsibility towards you, no matter how loud and long you want to scream and yell at me. And if you do try to grab a hold of me and slap cuffs on me and everything else, the next step is you are doing this under protest and duress, and I want that notified. This is why I'm planning on mounting a camera in my vehicle. This is why I'm going to mount a camera on my front door, my back door, and everything else, so that if they come into my house, if they pull me over, anything else, it's constantly videotaped. Because if I have to go to court over any of this stuff, I'm here to address the issue of this number.
But you also should be telling me and telling Maggot and people like that, because if your wife cannot handle basic concepts, basic obvious, then we need to defend you if problems happen.
Well, and that's fine, and that's why I would definitely make sure that you are well informed. Because
you know what I mean?
No, my wife, wife will not have.
Said it was terrorism.
I love my wife to death, but she will not be prepared to.
It's insane. It's like
handle any of this stuff. There's no question about that.
It's irresponsible. I have contingency plans because sometimes my parents drift back into the Fox News mentality.
Sure.
I don't need to bring me again. I've already been screwed once.
I know. We talked about this yesterday. Not on the show, but after the fact and everything. And maybe at one point we'll bring that up and talk about it then. But it's the instant, and it is quite probably different in other nations that exist in our common law than it is here in the United States, that you have the capacity or have a protected capacity to be able to question the authority that is being implicated against you. Because here in the U.S. we have carried on such an overt identity that those individuals who claim authority over you automatically have it. I mean, when I was a sophomore in high school, I was almost failed out of my 10th grade English class because I challenged my 10th grade English teacher's teachings on the Transcendentalist, Emerson, Thoreau, and the like in that vein, because I had actually been studying them for about 10 years and really knew and understood who and what they were and what they were dealing with. And when I raised questions and asked things in class, my teacher, as a sophomore in high school, screamed and yelled at me in front of everyone else in class that I wasn't allowed to pass my quote-unquote knowledge off on anyone else, then proceeded to bribe the class with A's if anyone who was willing to give $20 towards that particular year's English class's trip to Walden or whatever would automatically get an A in the class. And I brought that up before the school administration board that he was doing that. I almost failed out of 10th grade just because I refused to let somebody do. And he was Italian, Frank P. Scalabrino. He was Italian, and he was trying to do top-down control in his classroom. And I refused to let it happen, and I nearly failed the class. I have absolutely zero respect for people who do imposition authority.
Yeah.
Period. Absolutely, period.
The University of Cincinnati, they still do it. They have this freshman English exit exam. And you're not to write correctly. You're to write this bizarre style that they've come up with, this weird business style that would everyone, no matter what they're taking, to do this. I failed it twice in a row. And the third time I took it, I again failed it. But apparently, I knew some other English professors, and we used to meet and have this rollicking discussion every Friday at this And so they went in and forced the issue and got me the Pass Plus. It was only Pass, Fail, and Pass Plus. And I got the Pass Plus. They without telling me about this, my godmother is dean of arts and sciences, called me, what the hell have you done? How have you monkeyed with our system? You know, they insisted I have an original writing style. That I can't force myself to write this way. I didn't ask them to do this. I don't think I have such a great writing style. Maybe I do. I don't know. But they read the paper and they said, this, you know, he has an original. You know, you're not going to crush the way he writes. You're not going to force him to write this way. He can't do it. And he is correct. You're wrong. And I got the Pass Plus. I mean, it was just a stupid English. I probably could have written it the other way. I was sort of oblivious to what they wanted. I don't know.
Sure.
But when I thought the words were bizarre. You know, he has an original writing style. And I mean, really? Maybe I should be writing and not on the radio. What's wrong? It's always something like that. My experience is so different from everybody else's all the time. And it isn't because I'm better. It's just because I'm actually bizarrely different. That I don't know what the problem is. I mean, how can it be that much different? And I'm not trying to be different. So what's the deal? How does this work? I mean, I'm actually a lot of times trying to conform, and it's impossible. It's not working. It's against everything I think. Wow. We lost Maggot for a second. He went offline.
Did he?
It's England, of course. If you ever hear other calls, England, they have such a hard time with Skype. I don't know if they're doing deep packet inspection because they can upload. They can upload in other circumstances, but Comcast got in big trouble doing deep packet inspection trying to block BitTorrent. I mean,
really?
It shows you how far gone they were. When the Associated Press, I mean, we're talking about coming late to the fire. I mean, your house is gone by the time this fire company comes to help you. You know.
Right.
I mean, you have to be really guilty before. So, Associated Press wrote a program called Switzerland, so you could catch them and generate the appropriate evidence as a Comcast subscriber to prove that they were doing this to you. They wrote this thing called Switzerland to prove that they were picking on BitTorrent alone, and they were forced to stop. But I mean, you have to be enormously guilty for finding the Associated Press to notice, you know, have an NWO.
Right. Well, unfortunately, my experience with BitTorrent has been rather limited. So
what you want is Usenet News. Usenet News is offered on the backbone of the internet. It's part of the net neutrality deal. It's the bulletin board system that was perverted to give you binaries. It's supposed to give you text only. But that's where everything comes from. That's where everything that's reposted on BitTorrent comes from Usenet first. And the carriers now lately, even though they're required to carry Usenet News, will not provide it to their subscribers. I mean, it's no minor feat to get on the real backbone of the internet. You have to have an enormous room full of computers just to handle passing along Usenet News from where you get the internet to where you're going to pass it on to. That's how the backbone works.
Interesting.
I mean, so you would think, if you have to do all that just to fulfill your contract, why not just give it to your users too?
Sure.
They're just being jerked. Time Warner was one of the first to forbid you this.
Well, once again, we come into the whole concept of corporate entities ensuring that they make money off of things.
Yeah. But see, that's actually these corporate entities fighting against the New World Order system in a petty way. The real system is to allow everyone to download, because that makes it so that there's no royalties ever paid. There are no units actually purchased, so that we have Lady Gaga, who is forbidden to write her own material, so that she only has Illuminati NWO programming to deliver to the children who have never heard of anything else.
Right.
It's not about. I mean, and for them to act in this petty manner, the plan is for you to download stuff for free. That's why they wrote the laws like this. It's not really illegal. It's prosecuted. People that walk in and plead guilty the things that aren't crimes.
Well, but once again, we've been so fooled into believing that acceptance of the position of the accused is, not pleading guilty without realizing that it's automatically pleading guilty.
Or that you're going to get a better deal if you just plead guilty to something.
Right. Like if you choose to plead guilty, they'll go, oh, well, at least you were nice enough to admit to being at fault. We're just going to slap you on the wrist.
They turn around and slam you then. That never helps.
Right.
And also, especially when you're innocent, they will they'll bully you with this tactic. And the classic way of how we have so many people in prison for crimes they didn't commit is, especially with uneducated people, but they do it with everybody. This works on a lot of people. If you've been broken, if you're weak mentally, and a lot of people think they're not weak mentally, but they are. They say, "We'll just let you go home if you say you committed this murder." Let you go home.
Of course not.
Just not.
They're lying to you straight from the get-go. It's a unilateral contract that has absolutely no bearance in reality.
Yeah.
If somebody were to look at me and say, "If you plead guilty, we'll let you go home," I want that in writing.
Oh no, they're not saying plead guilty. They're saying confess to the crime, confess to this murder.
Right.
It becomes, we'll let you go home if you say this. We'll let you go. But then it escalates to the point of, well, we want you to confess to the murder that we have you in here in the first place.
Yeah.
Then we'll let you go. Of course.
It costs us a lot of time. Yeah.
Or, okay, if I don't confess to the murder, what are you going to do to me?
Right.
You've got nothing to hold me on. So if I don't confess, am I not allowed to go home? Because go ahead and do that, and you'll really appreciate my fee schedule.
Okay, most people don't know the Freeman system at this point.
Sure.
That's been blanched out of our history. We're not inventing anything, by the way. We're restoring.
They'll even try and make you feel sorry for them as well. They'll say, "Come on, you're taking a lot of our time. I got a wife and kids. Wife's down with me all the time, and she wants me to come back. All that sort of rubbish." And it's like,
with their bizarre issues,
Yeah, that's it. It's like, oh, sorry for
prison and for the rest of your life. I mean, I need to go home.
Yeah.
Right.
There's something on the box. I want to watch TV.
Time, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely.
Good cop and bad cop tactics.
We want to go ahead and get this wrapped up. We're all busy people, I'm sure, and we want to get out of here, etc., etc. Why don't you just go ahead and we'll do... No.
Yeah.
Charge
we know
me with
you
something.
did it. Yeah.
Charge me with something. That's my number one response to any time that I have to wind up in court. Charge me with something.
See, I had a bad situation, and I didn't have any of it.
Well, I wish I'd known any of this stuff. I wish I'd known any of this stuff 3 years ago.
I'm so upset.
Yeah.
I really wish I'd known any of this stuff 3 years ago, because I'd be in an entirely different situation right now.
That's right.
Yeah.
Me too.
I think we've all been caught up in it at one point or another, and that's how come we know it's real. There's definitely layers to it, though, and they'll escalate and escalate and escalate up the layers. And it's basically mind control techniques they're using on you. And, you generally get caught one that's above the level Sort of like, oh, I didn't know that one, after the event, but it's all very well to be wise after the event, but they've already had you.
Right.
And it could be anything, even like little cons, to get money out of you and stuff, money scams.
Well, that's really all statute law is designed for, is to get money out of you. I mean, you take a look at what happens. You get pulled over for driving, for running a stoplight or a stop sign or speeding or whatever else, etc., etc.
Yeah.
They're not going to tell you you're not allowed to drive. They just want you to go pay money to a third party. They just want you to pay. You get pulled over for drunk driving the first time. They may force you to sit in jail overnight and impound your vehicle, but they'll let you out the next day. But you then have to pay money to get your vehicle out of the impound, and pay money to the courts for having to show up in court, and pay money to have your driver's license reinstated, depending upon what they plan on doing to your license. And they've even instituted something here in the U.S. called responsible driver's fees. so that if you've been busted once or twice for driving in violation of statutes, you not only have to go to classes, but you have to pay for the classes and pay a couple $1,000s in driver responsibility fees to ensure that you get your license back to be able to execute what is a lawful act. And none of it has anything to do with ensuring that you're a good driver. It has everything to do with the money that they get. Because they're not telling you, I'm sorry, you can't drive, you've proved yourself to be an import driver and you violated your responsibilities, so we are removing from you your right to drive. They're saying, no, we're just limiting your permission to drive until you've paid us money. Well, if you're limiting my permission until I've paid you money, why do I need your permission?
Also, people ask me, why are these loopholes in the system in the first place?
Well, they're not loopholes.
This is how it was to begin with, and most of American history was this way. But these Jews and Masons who've done this, he left it the original. They're terrified of changing, modifying, or dismantling the system because we might freak out. Some people, people might find out, but also that they want these things to remain for themselves. When they have a drunk driving arrest, they walk right out of the jail, no breathalyzer, no nothing. When they say the same words we're telling you to say,
well, sure.
Or something, it's just because some cop will give her for nothing.
Well, but for example, and
that intimidates you and everything else, and if you're forced to go through that, and you're is there no hope for the widow's son? Doesn't seem to work out that day.
Well, but and to verify this for our listeners out there, there's a town here in Michigan called Tecumseh. It's a nice small little town off of M50. Cute place. Been around since the late 1700s, early 1800s. It's a great little town. That's been an awful lot of work there, actually. There was somebody driving their Jeep and swerving and going back and forth across the road and got pulled over. Well, the individual that got pulled over was a member of the local police department. And so instead of arresting the guy and taking him to jail or anything else, they made him pull his vehicle over on the side of the road, and the cop drove the off-duty officer to his home and told him to stay there. Well, the off-duty officer was drunk out of his mind. So took him home and dropped him off at home, where this off-duty officer went and got his daughter to drive him back to his Jeep that was on the side of the road, to let him get back into his Jeep and start driving his Jeep. Well, he wound up going off the road and flipping the Jeep. His daughter, who was driving behind him, freaked out and drove her car off the road and flipped her car. So now both vehicles have been flipped. Both the officer who was off duty and drunk and his daughter are now in the hospital for injuries sustained because of this and everything else. And the city council want to bring up charges against the police officer that pulled the off-duty officer over for not putting him in jail. Except if he had put him in jail, he'd have been hauled up internally for violating the rights of somebody who was a police officer, because it had already happened like 3 times in the last 7 months. City council members had been pulled over in the same town, and when they'd been put into jail overnight, the officers that had pulled them over and put them in jail had been suspended for 3 to 6 months. So the officer was doing what he thought was right to protect his job, to continue doing his job as a peace officer / policy enforcement officer, and wound up getting screwed because this off-duty police officer decided to continue to violate the law. This is how it happens, is that those who sit up at the upper echelons of the policy enforcement sector automatically believe and assume that they are above the law. Hands down. And they
one more
operate
process,
out of
isn't it?
that.
They give out.
Yeah, well, they're the instruments of the law, therefore they aren't subject to it.
Yeah. They're just
the law,
tools.
mister.
It's Judge Dredd.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's totally Judge Dredd. What did you say, Lenny?
Badge.
Right. Do you see my badge? My badge gives me total immunity. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bullshit. Total bullshit.
And this whole thing that the judges and the cops do about, well, they're having a bad day, so you better do what they want, or they'll have a tantrum. What?
Yeah.
That's so far out of bounds. It has to make you freak out.
Well, that's why I can't wait to be a peace officer.
Yeah,
I am so excited to be a peace officer. It's simply because, go ahead and pull me over. License, registration, license, registration, insurance. Here's my identification. I'm a peace officer. Was there some way I was breaching the peace? Yes. I'm a peace officer. Are you sure I was breaching the peace?
Well, you have to go into an effeminate, conciliatory, begging type posture to talk to these people now. Or you're going to be tasered for that busted taillight.
You got to be a counsellor. And
I can't wait to be a peace officer and pull a cop over.
Because normally their duty as a peace officer, even though they're lying about how it's really the policy enforcement officer, they can change hats a lot.
Right.
Will trump the citizens' rights.
Yeah, because duty trumps rights, because duty is an obligation with a coordinate right.
But the duty of the peace officer trumps the duty of the policy enforcement. Oops.
Always. Always.
Oops.
Hands down.
Oh my.
Oops. Doesn't that suck for you?
Oh my.
Every single time. Excuse me, is there a reason you pulled me over this evening, officer? Yes, I noticed that your registration, your license plate wasn't valid. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a peace officer exercising my duty to protect the rights of citizens of the country to be able to travel freely. Excuse me, you're what? I was operating under my duty. Go ahead. Say something. Did I break the peace? Okay, thank you very much. I'm very glad that you're out here trying to do your job. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Oh, they'll freak out. You're not a member of the Fraternal Order of Police. Wait till this stuff becomes a conflict. They're screwed.
Well, but just because I'm not a member of the Fraternal Order of Police doesn't invalidate my status as a peace officer. I didn't say that I'm a police officer. I'm a peace officer.
And I'd like to point out we're not so innocent. Wait till we have our AHEPA show. We'll be having a special edition of this show to explain the AHEPA, A-H-E-P-A. You can look it up in advance to see where this is going. I don't care. I'm not... I love Field McConnell of Hawks Cafe, who, when he has a dog in the fight, his sister's involved with this. Just like, Menard's sister. Menard, we'll talk about his own sister, too. He's not afraid either. But Field McConnell's in court prosecuting the lower-level government officials of 9/11 and all this. His sister's one of the defendants. He's prosecuting and putting in prison his own sister. You're like... So, I mean, I'm in the same category. I'm not afraid either, man. My uncle is one of the people that corrupted the Greek church in very, very, very recent times. I'll be
sure. When he decided he wanted to be a 33rd degree Mason, right?
Yeah. I'll be exposing Rhodes Scholar Saba Zimbelis, who I knew personally, my uncle who arranged this, Timothy Ware, and then separately I'll be exposing the AHEPA, the corruption in the church. That's not a church thing, that's a Greek organization that was founded in 1922, which is the Fraternal Order. And the maids of Athena and the daughters of Penelope and the sons of Pericles. Anyway, But we'll be doing that in a comprehensive blow the lid off this episode coming up.
I can't wait.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah. My uncle's dead. We have all this stuff. And even though his son is as angry as I am about this, he doesn't want it. I do.
Well, you can be angry about something, but once again, taking responsibility to do something about it.
I'm not afraid. Even though I have dogs in this fight, man, they're going down. We're not protecting them.
Sure.
I'm going to have my uncle moved away from. I was angry at the time he died that they were going to try to bury him in our family plot. He's leaving.
Sure.
We're moving.
There's no reason he should be.
Amazing.
That's a total violation against your entire system of thought.
Yeah, it's complete violation.
Absolutely. So. Okay, I'm done pontificating from my end.
I get too much information across in a short time. I wear people out, but I never drop in factual information. That's the problem with it. I've done the homework on everything I discuss. I know all kinds of things that I don't talk about because I don't have pictures of reptilians and shapeshift. I'm sorry, I don't have. That never comes up.
Right?
I don't have anything to go with that.
Right, and neither do I. And while I've seen videos that are available out there, I can't automatically qualify one way or the other.
But the stuff I have engineered in my own head. I mean, the stuff that comes out of my mouth is the stuff people will say at any moment. They say, "Prove it." And I've got all my research bound. I've got all my disc catalog.
Sure.
I can come right now and nail you. Plus,
well, and you see that's
Tragedy and Hope, and people won't listen. You can hit them with the book. Tragedy and Hope is huge. Have you seen that?
I have not, but I definitely need a copy of it so that I can read it.
And the Steinsaltz helmets are big and wide and thin.
Well, but you're supposed to keep you're supposed to be sending me a bunch of information, and of course, because of my computer deficiencies on my end, I haven't received some of them yet. One of them is copies of the Talmud. One of them is the Paul McCartney's head shapes.
Oh, you can see that now while we're on the interview.
Well, I'd love to see that, but I don't know where to look for it or anything else. So I'll just let you take over my computer.
We're flipping it over from CMAC. So I'm actually screwing with it while he's suffering on the telephone right now. I have to put his video drive in him.
For those of you who don't know, I am not currently on my computer. Lenny is actually on my computer right now, screwing around with it.
That's that reason we've had so many call drops and stuff. Okay.
Right.
I'm going for the full torture. I'm not really Lenny Bruce, of course.
Right, of course not.
I mean,
No!
Right, you've totally destroyed Maggot there. Thank you.
I thought you were.
Myself, you know what I mean?
And unfortunately, I apologize that you meticulously invented yourself in a couple different ways, and we've totally blown the lid off of that.
I'm stuck with your real name.
Well, but just wait, because at the end of this show, when we get into when we talk about all of our websites and how to contact us and find out more information, and Maggot has to actually share his MySpace account for people to check out. His MySpace account isn't listed under Maggot either. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. You will find out by the end of the show how to actually find Maggot. Bum, bum, bum.
Well, I have given it out a few times in previous shows. I've put it in. It is on my profile somewhere on the Freeman Society. I just don't know why it's not showing up. It's quite strange.
So I'm currently that is rather significantly different, isn't it? That's frightening. I'm looking at these, for those of you out there who might want to log on and check it out, if you go to DIGILANDER, digilender.libero.it/p_truth/, there's apparently a variety of pictures showing the differentiation of the head shapes and forms between Paul McCartney as he actually is and Phil Ackerell, or the false Paul McCartnney. And it's wow, it's rather.
You can do it yourself with Photoshop. You can do it. There's the classic example that they offer you, like get that classic picture of David Letterman at the Atlas grocery store before he was famous, and get a picture of him now. It's faded back and forth.
Right, and you'll notice that it's the exact same head structure and head style and everything else.
You do pictures of yourself. Pictures as
sure.
As at least you have to be like a 12, 13 before your head was completely formed. But then you now check it out. You haven't gotten a new head, and Paul McCartney hasn't either.
Post link. Post link on the chat room. I'm just seeing if I can find how to access me on the World Freeman Society.
Yeah, he actually appears in Magical Mystery Tour, the other guy. He has something to do with Bonzo Dog Band. The Bonzo Dog Doodah Band, which I really like.
That's just frightening.
Neil Lyons is not guilty. Neil Lyons is the guy that, from Bonzo Doodah Band, that he wrote most of the Python stuff, the Ruddles, Python.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This goes on and on for miles, by the way, this website. It's really amazing. They call him Fall, F-A-U-L. I thought this was funny. I don't stand on this. This is not the foundation of my research or anything. This is just fun. But then Eric Hushman used it in one of his videos. I like Eric Hushman. I just wish he's so upset and so hurt by what's gone on in 2 or 3 situations, which he's not guilty of anything. He was one of the early guys that did this stuff, but he's left us. He's so out there now, and it's not because he believes things that are false. It's because his feelings are hurt, and he just wants to be left alone in a way. But he also wants to be involved. And they've kicked him out of the truth movement. It's not fair. Thank you, Deborah Simon of Indianapolis.
Well, thank you, Deborah Simon.
Because you have to be a Zionist to be in the truth movement if you're going to be in a public figure. So they'll be doing something, I'm sure, to force me out. No, they will not be doing that.
Wow.
I'm no Zionist, and I know the truth. I can actually do the real argument. I mean, I'm no racist. I can nail it note for note, line for line out of their first-party evidence. Let them come after me. I'll fight to the last bitter end, and I'll go public. I don't need any argument. I'm legitimate. Come and sleep on my couch. You'll see.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. You can go and sleep on Evstrakios' couch.
Welcome to it.
It might not be that.
The other people that I've met online who I happen to know are legitimate. The more and more of us that can speak on these topics who are not shills, who are not afraid of any topic. You know what I mean? Where,
right.
I have a dog in this fight. I've got to leave that part alone. Fuck that.
Right. Well, my wife's Jewish, so...
I've been developing people. I give them, I'll mail them the evidence. I'll do whatever I have to do. You're now, until they're confident to speak publicly, where they're completely documented, the more of us there are, the less shills we have to deal with. It pushes them out. We don't have to discredit the shills. They're discredited because the more and more of us that are not shills, it makes them seem like a lesser information. I don't have to go after them.
Paul McCartney looks really ugly in some of those photos.
Have Alex Jones be the only one, and then he's a shill.
But once again, if I can just address that issue just real briefly, if you're telling the truth, you will always find opposition. If you're lying,
I'll fight to the most bitter end. I will not blink. If you want to come after me, I will fight. I will turn this into a bloodbath publicly. I will go and I will show everything I have.
Well, but the easiest way to understand it is that if we're lying, if everything we're talking about isn't the truth, they will ignore us and laugh us off and pretend we don't exist. But if we're telling the truth, they'll do everything they can to vilify us. So if you come across things while you're going through information and trying to find out about what we're talking about, if you find opposition that vilifies us, you know we're telling you the truth.
And come and talk to us. Don't say, well, I found out they're a shill because someone said something. Come and talk to me.
Always.
I'll help you work through it. If I find I'm a shill, I'll discredit myself. You know what I mean?
Right.
You don't have to make stuff up about me, man.
And once again, that's one of the major differences, is that if we are wrong, we want to know. And we want to address those issues and move past them and be able to present truth. But if all you're doing is finding information that presents us as being wrong and claiming that as truth without ever talking to us, well, then all you've done is placed yourself in the exact same position as those people who oppose us. Think for yourself. If something contradicts what we're telling you, what you're listening to, what you're hearing, ask us. Search it. Research it.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I answer this guy.
Right.
Email.
Exactly.
Email, you better jump up and down because I get too much email. I don't see it. I have to go fish it out of the junk folder. But seriously, I answer the email too.
Right. But your first indication that something has a validity, and I can't remember who said it, but I wish I could right now because it's absolutely pertinent. Never believe anything until it has been officially denied.
No, that's not enough.
Well, but it's the start towards. The instant anything is officially denied, its level of truth skyrockets. Absolutely. Because it has to. Because the only time it's officially denied is when they don't want you to investigate it. Again, it stems back to what we were talking about yesterday. They're not going to have on talk shows people who truly know this stuff and investigate this stuff and research this stuff and have written books about it. They're going to pull on celebrities and minor people who, Charlie Sheen and Michael Moore and Kevin Smith, and they're going to pull on people who.
Smith's gone the right way.
Has he? Well, that's good.
But that he could flip tomorrow, so who knows? He's
Right.
sold out to the Miramax.
Yeah. So, but
I like him, but I don't want to be tricked again.
I did a member page for myself on WFS. I think it's waiting for approval or something.
What's wrong? I'll fix it.
Yeah. Says this is a new staging page that has not been approved before. It's like, say, page save version 2, but I still can't find it. Okay, well, it's got a hash on there. It's probably won't go to anything. Yeah. That's probably no use.
You know what it is?
That's what I mean, actually, standard editing sort of page. It's not actually seems to be uploading to the WFS server. Yeah.
That's
Oh, just.
fault.
Is it?
I'll fix it though. We actually found out recently how to get around a lot of these bugs. There are
Okay.
ways to fix these problems with this website. So if you have problems with the website, I actually we have a little extra team. Not these guys, but there's another. Anyway, we figured it out. It just makes
Okay.
it's a big, complicated website.
Oh, I have got page ID for it though.
No, that's not your page exactly.
Well, it's got a record of it anyway.
That's
on
not
there.
the right one. There's a bug with a space in it. You can't have a space. That's not your fault at all. You can't have a space in the URL. I'm not talking to you.
That link I just posted, that should actually get you the data anyway.
Yeah, no, that user page should have. Yeah, that's not right. And the worst part is that thing that ended in user page.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't that lead to my user page? But it doesn't. It leads to yours alone. That shows you how messed
Does
up
it?
it is.
That's really weird. Yeah, because I was thinking I wasn't even going to bother sending that one to you because that was just going to lead you to a generic user page, like default one.
not a regular co-host. You're a co-host.
Yeah.
You're not.
I am regular co-host.
To the minors. Oh, it says approved. Oh, do I have to approve something? That's right.
Which page am I reloading?
Either one of those two.
Okay.
Oh, Don has to go.
Yep,
Okay.
unfortunately I have something that's popped up that I desperately need to take care of, because if I don't, it's going to culminate into something far bigger than I need it to. I'll talk to you about it later.
I want to talk to her on the show.
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to do that. I don't think that has anything to do with it. Well, it's, I won't even get into it. I'll talk to you about it later.
Okay, bye.
Because it has nothing to do with any of us. My name is Don. I'm glad to have been with you all today. I will talk to you all tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm searching through the pages for username Maggot. There's nothing coming up. And find user page.
Support on the show. I approved it, whatever it was.
Yeah. But it should be under user page Maggot, shouldn't it? Capitalised. Yeah. So I do find under M.
No, you see where it says about your name and then it says log out on the right. Click your name.
My name, log out.
No, don't log out. It's right next to log out. It says your name.
I've got a login one. Ooh, it says I'm online. Yeah, it says I'm online user.
Okay. So click your name to get to where you are, and then we'll figure out. It should say name your page. But it's still not there.
We got that. That's one. The website login. I'll try that again. I've got the login thing. Login website login. It says logged in as Maggot.
Yeah. But,
I can click on my name anywhere it's like highlighted.
no.
Yeah, what's up?
Alright.
What are you guys doing?
We're just hanging out, trying to,
Is
Yeah.
the show still on or what?
yeah, we're still on.
Yeah. Because I've done the exciting part of the show. I'm just trying to get my references sorted out. Yeah. No, anyway, my MySpace page is www.myspace.com/John_H_M_Warrington. That's spelled WARRINGTON. Warrington, as I prefer to pronounce it. Warrington sounds a bit. Yes, Warrington's okay, but it's that some people say Warrington. It's like most Americans can't say warrior. They call it warrior. I hate it. It's warrior.
I hate pentagon and aluminium.
Aluminium.
I may strangle it next time in person. Aluminium. Okay.
Well, I say Pentagon. Yeah. Pentagon's.
Country, they do what we tell them.
Yeah, I think I call it Pentagon. I call it aluminium or something. Aluminium. Third world. Okay. We were discussing that. We were discussing earlier about people who just like try and put an authority on you in public places and try and drag you away. I've got something I want to discuss with you in private, sort of thing. And it's like, well, you come to me in a public place with a private message, so the nicest way and quickest way of doing it is just if they just say it quietly. But if they insist on dragging you away in public to a private place to have a discussion, just discussing ways of getting out of that. This is usually a trap, and usually the people doing it are a bit mental.
Yeah, one time I was talking about the truth, and I had a security guard. This was in a hospital, and me and this Christian guy were talking about the state of the world and this and that, and there was this black guy that was listening on the side, some younger guy just listening to the conversation, just trying to absorb some information, and the security guard came up and he was like, could you stop talking about what you're talking about? And I'm like, are we talking too loud? He's, no. Are we cursing? No. Oh, what's the problem here? No, someone just doesn't want you talking. This is America, isn't it? The security guard said, we have a problem here? I said, no, I don't have any problem. I live in America. I'm going to keep speaking. So he went off and called the cops. So the two gentlemen that were there, they were like, well, we know you didn't do a fucking thing wrong. We'll be right here waiting for them to show up. So what's the cops do? They come there, and then they ask to speak with me in a private room. And the reason being is because they're about to break the law. In actuality, they don't want to be caught violating your God-given constitution. What did they do? They asked me to come and, would I come speak with them in this fucking private room? I will never go speak with a motherfucker in a private room again, because, that's why I'm sick and tired of these fuckers.
Yeah.
Because every time you turn around, they want people to respect them, but then they want to violate your constitutional rights. Yeah, they don't want to be caught committing crimes, so they want to take you off by your fucking self. And anyway, nothing happened. They asked me what was going on and this and that, and basically they asked me if I could just could you please don't, I'm like, fine, what the fuck ever, man, No, that wasn't good enough, right? That I had did that for them.
Yeah.
That wasn't good enough. So what do? They go out to my car, and I had a big spliff underneath of my radio, basically my stereo. Well, no, it wasn't in there. It wasn't in the ashtray. It was on this little ledge that was right above, like the ledge of the player. And you couldn't have seen it unless you were looking in my car. Now the thing was, they didn't know who I was or what my car is, but they finally figured out by going out there snooping around or reviewing security tapes. Yeah. So they go out there and they see that rolled up cigarette on my stereo, but they couldn't get to it even though the doors were locked, because I had my black lab in there, and she will eat you if you come anywhere near that car. Now, I kept the windows down on it just enough so she could get air, but not enough that she would, because, someone might think she's cute and go stick their hand somewhere in there. So they come out and they say, Mr. So-and-so, can you please come and let the windows down on your dog, for your dog? And I'm like, looky here. These fucking son of a bitches think they're slick. Oh, right away. Right away I'll go out there.
Yeah, I was just about to burn alive, in the heat.
Yeah. So I Fourth Amendment rights. Yeah, so I go out there, right? Like I'm just as dumb as a fucking block and don't know what. I already instinctively knew that they had seen that spliff and that they were on their way to go fucking try to get me out to the car. So I said, oh, right away. So I get out there, right? And they think they're sitting there rubbing their hands together, letting me go to the car, thinking that, he doesn't know while he's rolling down the windows, we're going to roll up on him. Minute I got to that fucking car, I ate the spliff. They didn't even see me eat it. And when by the time, because I was like 30, 40 feet. So by the time I got to the car, the motherfuckers were like, where's that rolled up cigarette that was on the dash? I was like, what rolled up cigarette? They're like, don't play around. I said, what do you want to do, search me? He said, put your hands behind your back. I said, what for? He said, I said, what's the charge? Sat there for about fucking 20 seconds scratching his head, and then he came up with tampering with physical evidence. I said, what evidence?
Yeah.
Motherfucker, look here, man. It cost me $1,000, right? Cost me $1,000 to get the fuck out of nothing, right? Because if I didn't pay a lawyer, the motherfuckers would have somehow tried to railroad me. Even though they didn't have a case, you cannot play with these fuckers. Even though they had no fucking evidence, only thing they had on me was tampering with physical evidence. Now, of course, I could have went in a trial and probably played around with them, but I figured, you know what? I better not play around with them because, you know, they're probably going to try to shaft me somewhere, so I better pay a fucking lawyer. I paid him $1,000. The bitch got the shit thrown way the fuck out. And plus it was a conflict of interest in some respect because the guy who I hired as a lawyer on purpose, his wife was the fucking judge. I said, I'm going to fix this thing. Boom! And so when I went to fucking court, they just threw it out. Nothing else happened. I didn't hear no more about it. And so, but yeah, that's what fucking happened to me one time. This was like probably, this was like year 2000. This was over 10 years ago. But it's just a fucking disgusting mess around here, man.
It's not just your area, it's everywhere. It's the United States. And it's coming worldwide to a venue near you. You know?
Well, you know... Yeah, go ahead. Man, I hate saying that, man. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, what could they have done to you anyway? I mean, it's like you had a joint in your car. Could you just like, you know, ding ding, and got in the car and drove off?
No, hell no. Dude, this is America. And you know, for as much as Americans claim about rights, and this is America, and we got freedoms more than anybody, dude, if you keep on fucking saying it enough, people will buy that. All you have to do is turn on the television in America and see police violating people's rights, abusing their human rights, and just every right in the world. They have no respect. If a cop killed someone, they've got the people in America so convinced that, you know, we got to let this slide because, you know, sometimes these things fucking happen. No fucking no. I'm sick of it, man. And I'll tell you, I had to fucking, you know, I always used to, I guess I still do, don't like to talk about this, but I keep a razor to the razor sharp buck knife on me 24/7, right? And I mean, sometimes I use it for picking my teeth, sometimes I use it because I need a knife, sometimes I need it for whatever, you know what I mean? But I just keep it on me because I've been doing it since I was a fucking kid, you know what I mean? I like sharpening a fucking buck knife, having it extremely sharp and keeping it in my pocket. Well, I don't keep it in my pocket anymore, but I do keep it on the outside now. But that's what happened. One time I had gotten stopped by a cop and, you know, just pulled over, and he asked the dumbass questions. Do you have any fucking No. Do you have any weapons? Well, I don't know. You might call this buck knife. Oh, it's the law. Oh, you have one in your pocket? I have to give you a charge for that. And by the way, probably end up keeping my wonderful knife. But so anyway, he keeps the fucking knife, or I get a charge for it. I end up getting on some probation for this shit. So during the probation, I actually complete the probation with no problemos. But I owed I think $200 on a fine because in America, they put like 3 or 4 different fines on you by the time they get done. They get one for superior, get one for comment. I mean, I don't know how many different things they got. But you end up with like 3 different fines. Court costs the whole fucking 9. So then they said, okay, well, you completed your probation, but you still have this money. As soon as you get that paid off, you pay that plus you pay to be on probation, right? Okay, yeah. We just extract everything as we can out of you, and then when you get done, we'll let you off. Okay, well, I said, okay, you know, even though I completed your program, the whole, you know, year or whatever it was, 6 months, I can't fucking remember, went through it, didn't have any problems. The minute I had to take my wife to the hospital because she was having some kind of bellyache, I'm in there just having a discussion, waiting in the waiting room with some fucking body, and here comes this piece of shit security guard. And so I was still on probation during the time, you know, even though I had completed it, basically. And so when they found that spliff, they were like, oh fuck, or when they thought they were going to get that spliff, and I actually fucked their heads up, they went and called this probation guy. The probation guy came out, right? This is no joke, man. This is a true to life story. The probation guy came out to my house. He extracted a urine test on the fucking spot. Nothing came back as positive. Then, when that didn't work, they said, okay, well, you need to come in because you missed one of your appointments. No, that wasn't what it was. They said, no, you when I got in that trouble about the spliff, they said, okay, we're going to jack you up to a higher level. I said, okay, whatever, because I had this extra thing I had to go through with court. So they said, okay, you kind of like violated your probation, so we're going to have to put you on some other shit, a higher level or whatever. So I said, oh, okay. Well, that wasn't it. I knew instinctively that when I got them, they were going to be so vindictive. And what they did was they came out, they tried to fuck me over. They couldn't do it that way. Then they came back of the night, like they said they came out at like 10 o'clock because I was supposed to be on a curfew or something. Yeah. They said, we came out at 10 o'clock and you weren't there. I said, no, I was there. Don't even try to say I wasn't. It doesn't matter. They make up fucking lies, so they went and they tried to ruin my fucking life, just over because, they couldn't, fuck me up some kind of way, and I actually beat them to the punch like I always do. But, yeah, that's what the fuck happened with me, man, and that's why I'm totally disgusted with this thing called law enforcement, because they're a bunch of fucking hypocrites. I can't tell you how many fucking... Look here, man, Look here. We have cops, right, that stole fucking cars that are on the force. I know. They were stealing fucking cars. I know of them that, one was selling me fucking marijuana, and I bought a couple hits of fucking... Well, I tried to buy a couple hits of acid off him, except he sold me fake fucking acid, and now he's on the fucking police force, and I know who the fuck he is. He steals fucking drugs so he can support his wife's fucking habit. And there's tons of them out there. There's one guy that was known, I don't know here recently, but like years ago, this guy was known as Cop of the Year because he was making so many drug busts. There was only one problem. He was feeding most of it to his fucking wife, and I know. Get the fuck out of here. There's a bunch of shit going on in this fucking country. Somebody better stand up and start doing something.
It depends. You need to stand up and start doing it yourselves because nobody else will.
Well, I know I've put my thing down. I've put it down so much, man. I gotta fucking be very careful. Shit, I mean, no, this is no bullshit, Caribbean critic. If you do the research in the Delaware State News and the Dover Post, dude, I was such a 9/11 activist, dude. Everybody gets a 9/11 DVD, whether you're stupid or not, because I realized from experience that I learned from my mom, she just had these tapes on her fucking collecting dust. I picked them up, give them to everybody. So guess what? Here's what they did to me, Caribbean. Here's what they did. I gave a copy of a 9/11 to a guy in some military fatigues that was at the Air Force Base. All I did was hand it to him, and I said, This will give you the truth about 9/11 or something. I don't know, but it was basically just that. Now I did this in a parking lot of a shopping center, which I am well known throughout that shopping center because everyone at a checkout stand, anyone in that area knows exactly who I am. But see, they didn't know that. All they knew is that this guy's handing out 9/11 DVDs. So here's what they do. They put in the paper that police are looking for a Middle Eastern gentleman or a Middle Eastern man driving a red sports car. And so they said he threw. They claim I threw a 9/11 videotape because at that point I was pumping out videotapes. They said, we don't know what the package was. Let me tell you what the package was. It was an Alex Jones DVD in a VCR case, and yet they're telling the public that he threw a package. We don't know what it is. So what did they do? They called out all of these fucking anti-terrorist fucking, every fucking bomb squad, every fucking fire department from everywhere in the local cities and everything, to come out there and cordon off this whole fucking area at the shopping center. And let me tell you something. They got a big fucking surprise, because the public, when they put that stuff that, oh, we're looking for the guy and he threw a package. One of them said, I threw a package. The other paper said, I tossed a package. They couldn't even get their lies straight. And so here's what happened. The people that I gave the videos to, they were writing and saying, in the little, well, you know, you can write back into the newspaper. They're saying, well, this is what they said. We're going to review, well, like in a later edition. First they said it was a package. Then like 2 days later, when they got the public all shook up, they said, well, it's a videotape, and we're going to review the videotape, and then we'll get back to the public about what's on it. Dude, people were writing in the paper like, what's on that videotape? We want to know. Tell us what's on the videotape. Dude, let me tell you something.
It makes you seem guilty.
Oh, but check it out. Here's what happened. At the end of all this, the public was so like, what are you going to do? Because everyone, if they asked anyone in the shopping center, like if they had investigators, which they did, they all said, hey, it's this guy here, and he lives right over here. Yeah, he's always up here. Matter of fact, I didn't find out till like a week later when I read it in the paper, right? I had no clue all this went on until I had read it in the paper. And so the last episode in the paper that it said was, oh, the only thing we could probably get him for if we did want to get him was disorderly conduct. Yeah, motherfucker, because every jury member will be up in that courtroom watching the DVD or the fucking video.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. So anyway, that has a, guess what? If you can't shake me by that, they know this, you know, only thing we can do to this guy is kill him. It ain't nothing going to stop this guy. Either we're going to have to put him in prison or kill him. Nothing else will work. But yeah, man, it happened to me locally, being a 9/11 activist, but it didn't stop my role, and quite frankly, it showed me that the public, you know, even though they might not be totally activists, they knew that it did two things. It legitimized my 9/11 information and proved to the public that these people are definitely corrupt, because everyone in this town knows I would never throw a DVD or a video at somebody. They don't have that experience with me.
It's not supposed to be, you know, throw info at them like a weapon.
No. They were implying it was a bomb or something, weren't they?
They were saying They were saying that I had tossed a package. They were trying to make it look like a package.
Yeah,
well,
they're trying to associate it with it.
Known Taliban throws suspicious package. You know, probably a bomb.
Package, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an explosive package.
It didn't work, though, man. It didn't work, and what really made me feel good was when people in the public were writing and saying, well, we want to know what's on that video. Because everybody knows in my town what's on that video. It's not just me, it's this old guy, right? This old guy is really off the chain. He's been around since Tex Mars days, and I met him like years ago when I used to put DVDs in the newspaper and videos. And anyway, so he goes to the police department. He's handing them out to the police department. Dude, I know this old man reads the paper every day. When he saw that, he knew exactly who it was. He went down there and he put his 2 cents in. Man, I'm telling you, we're making progress around here. In the first state, by the way. Delaware is the first state.
It's also where the IRS and the CIA and the FBI are registered private companies.
Oh yeah, they man, it's a real. I'm going to do a show on this actually, but this is where the DuPonts are. This is where they also made the gunpowder for the North and the South to kill themselves, and they're still doing the same thing. The DuPont Hospital. This is, you know, I'm going to talk about the DuPonts, but the DuPont Hospital, for many years, it's known as AI DuPont. It's a children's hospital. It's like one of the best in the country. And the reason why this hospital exists is because of the inbreeding of the DuPonts. they have so many retarded kids, and I know because basically my grandmother, my wife's father's husband, she married him. I mean, my mom's husband's father. She married again, so I guess he's kind of like my grandmother. She worked for these people, and she tells me about how out on an island out by Kent Island going towards D.C., that they have this island, their retarded offsprings that they hide off on this island somewhere, and the reason why they have this hospital is because for many years, for like 50 plus more years, it was totally private, only for the DuPonts themselves to use and to figure out what their problems are. And now they've turned it over for use with the public, and mainly because, I guess on one hand they can experiment and do, experiments on the public before they try it on themselves, and at the same time give a cover, because it's becoming so obvious that they're a bunch of fucking inbreeders, man. They even have a highway called the DuPont Highway named after these slime balls.
I know a lot about this DuPont thing too, and you're 100% on this. We should have a DuPont show. I mean, this is important. You know what I mean? They're the ones that took pot away from us.
Yeah, that is true too. So they can have their all their chemicals and stuff, and this leads right into the petrochemical aspect of things. I mean, once again, they're all in cahoots, man. It's one gigantic pie, and they're just slicing it up amongst themselves.
Yeah. I didn't formally introduce. I've been saying I was going to try to get the Caribbean Critic on. We'll formally introduce him on like a next show or something. But I just had him come in at the end here. He's a guy from Barbados who I was shocked. He knows this 100%. You know what I mean? I was just stunned one night. I was talking to him. He's not in America. He's in Barbados. I mean, I guess in those island territories, you have to know this stuff to save your own life. Yeah.
Well, it's I'm surprised and somewhat dismayed that things like the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and certain other things aren't actually taught in American schools. I probably know more about your own Constitution than you do.
Well, they won't mention the Declaration because that talks about self-evident truth.
Yep. Yeah. And nobody even looks at the Paris Treaty of 1783, which basically returned everything back to where it was before the War of Independence, and Adams and several of the Continental Congressmen, 4 of them I think it was, signed this document, and it didn't actually, if you like, close down the war. What it did, it allowed the British soldiers to remain in for several years later and slowly get them moved back to Great Britain. Yeah. But at the end of the day, what Americans, colonists owned in Britain, they still owned. What British, or if you like, the King, what he owned before this War of Independence, he still owned. And in fact, everything west of the Mississippi is still owned by the Crown. That's what it says, and that document has never been modified. There's nothing, no amendments to it. It's still legal in law today.
Yeah, we're very screwed. But, anyway, Iconoclast was there on a rant. Go ahead. It was a really useful rant.
So we've, I've come to the conclusion only just recently that we've got these three systems in place. We have the Vatican, which seems to be the spiritual and political center. We've got London, which seems to be the financial center, and Washington D.C., which is the military enforcement center. And that's how things are playing out. And you don't have to agree with me. Just see what's happening, what's actually going on.
Cities.
That's right. The Empire of the Three Cities, the Three Crowns.
And initially, in like the Middle Ages, they had that deal between the English Crown and the Vatican to rule until Christ returned. I mean, who pointed that? But then they added they added in the military power in 1982, and Reagan turned that. it's not even all of District of Columbia. It's the mall. They call it not the shopping mall. It's called the mall. It's where all the buildings are, the major, the U.S. Congress building and all that. So what's interesting is all of our 4th of July things that come on national TV on the 4th of July come from a foreign country.
Yeah, the mall, a wholly owned subsidiary of the Crown Corporation.
Right. It's the three arms of their deal: ecclesiastical, financial, and military.
Yep, unfortunately, and it seems to be working out well for them, doesn't it?
Right. And so people that insist that it's just the Jews are mistaken. It's the Jews and the Vatican and the so-called military CFR roundtable type groups as well. They're all equally involved here, and the UN. And you know what I mean? It's not just one or the other. A lot of people fight over, it's only no, it's not only one or the other. It's all of them together in a weird group marriage that they're in.
Well, you see, I mean, if you look at the actual historical account, and under the old British Empire, they created a system of control which was under the auspices of the Royal Institute of International Affairs, and they created these little enclaves in every country, including America, because at one time America was a colony. And it all comes back, these round table groups all come back under the Royal Institute of International Affairs, the senior of the round table, one that sits at the top.
Now, for those people that can't find it, they always look for that and they can't find it. It's called Chatham House. CHATHAM. Chatham House. That's the Royal Institute for International Affairs. It didn't disappear. It's still there. They operate under Chatham House rules. That's what the common purpose operates today. So anyway, go on.
Yeah, I mean, the Chatham House, it's not too far to see that Chatham House is actually a royal residence. So guess who's controlling the whole shit? And we got the Tavistock Institute, which is similar to your Trilateral Commission.
And the mind control of the CIA. That's what Tavistock's mainly mind control and social engineering.
Psychological warfare.
Yes.
And all these things, we think we're two separate countries. We're not.
No, we're actually in the Commonwealth, unfortunately.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you guys, we've been under the hammer for 600 years. You guys are just coming under the hammer, and you've got a chance to beat it. But you got to move quick if you're going to beat it.
We're working on it. We're trying to get people talking. That's why we have the radio show. That's our outreach for the American chapter. But we even have Maggots in England right now.
Yeah.
And we want to talk to you in Barbados every once in a while. Whenever it's convenient for you to come on, just pop on in. And we just want as many voices. And we want people to be able to talk interactively, because that's the key. You have to be able to do this on your feet.
Yep, I totally agree.
A lot of people panic when it comes time for the crunch. You have to say the right words. It's not complicated stuff. You just have to be able to survive interrogatory. You know what I mean? Being questioned, you have to be able to answer the right questions.
Yeah.
Mainly your mantra: I do not consent. I do not wish a contract. You know.
Yeah, let's. I think that would be a good method. Is reinstituting the common law. Get rid of all these acts and theatre and statute. Yeah, I mean, statute comes from the word status. That just describing your status, and it's all by consent. You have to consent to this thing. Every single piece of legislation that goes through the British House of Commons, it says at the bottom of that legislation, by the consent of the people.
It's not a blanket consent. It's per incident, per act of statute.
Exactly. And if you haven't consented, then you're not bound by its regulations. The only people that are bound by it are the ones who actually instituted that statute.
It's to control them.
Yeah.
With this legal fiction, they make you a government employee so that you're bound by it too. If these things were instituted to control corporations and commerce, which we are not engaged in, Your wages are not commerce. We're not government employees. But so when we walk out of the cage, they stay in the cage. It's for them. Yeah.
And if you want to have a look at how pervasive this thing is, most of your top attorneys, in fact, nearly all your attorneys in the USA, belong to the BBA, the British Bar Association.
Yeah, that's it. The law societies are administered by that by the bar.
Yep.
And all the lawyers individually join the bar usually. And there's some that are not, but very, very rarely. So anyway, we're coming up to the end of the show here. We've got about 6 minutes. But we're winding down. We actually covered stuff in an intelligent manner before. We're just kind of randomly talking now, but we're doing okay.
Yeah. As long as people are listening and taking note of what we're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, don't watch the comedy programs like CNN and MSNBC and what have you. Think for yourself, for goodness sake.
Right, we're in big trouble. It's an emergency. Finally, it's a legitimate emergency where they always want to claim it as one so they can get control. Finally, they've created a real emergency, and people don't see that one.
Yeah.
They see the phony emergency, which is supposed to give them blanket rights and blanket whatever over our head, That's what we're trying to do. I don't know.
Well, they like Rahm Emanuel said, never let a good crisis go to waste. 9/11 was created, and then you got your FISA Act, your Patriot Act, your Military Commissions Act, and all this shit was pushed through.
Yeah. There was recently on the BBC an amazing program. I was alerted to it by the New Zealand chapter head called The State Within. Did that run in Barbados?
No, it hasn't run here, no.
It's brand new, and it's never going to show in America. But I thought, he's given me such good stuff to watch in the past. I thought, I'm going to suffer through the first, because it was starting to talk about Muslims attacking us and stuff, which is ludicrous and not true. Yeah. But it flips on you, and then it blows up in your face, this program. It's only 6 episodes. It's an amazing show. It's got that Sharon Gless from, she's either Cagney or Lacey, I don't remember. She's kind of bad. But there's this British, the British ambassador in America. He's an amazing character, and the whole, and I'm going to take it over and show my mother. I mean, it's to show somebody who thinks that it's possible that this Fox News reality is true, to see it all blow up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It starts with the conformist view, and then it flips on its head.
Sure.
It's an amazing program. If you can find The State Within, I recommend.
Yeah. There are quite a few English movies like that about basically involved in the truth movement, and they've got this like quiet sort of disarming attitude about them, and they go into further depth than you do get in American movies.
Oh, they won't even show the Power of Nightmares here.
Yeah. That's it.
Adam Curtis from BBC Two is unknown in America.
Yeah. Because the American style is all sensationalism. It's like, oh my god, they sent us all to camps. And the English approach is more sort of, it sounds more laid back, and it sort of draws you in more. So sometimes you think you're watching a load of old boring footage, and then they'll they'll twist it, and then they'll show you why they're showing you that. And they'll show you exclusive unseen stuff.
I've seen the BBC. They're a government arm and all that. I mean, I've seen them.
Well, obviously,
endorse the phony story. But every once in a while, they let stuff through the gate that.
That's it, and they'll do it. That's what I mean. They'll do it in a discreet way, so you don't actually notice it unless you're actually watching it. You watch a clip, you think, "Oh, this is just propaganda," and it will seem like propaganda. But if you watch the whole thing, then you get a different perspective than you would if you might get, say, Fox or something.
Well, I did particularly like the way the BBC sneaked in that interview with 6 or 7 or 8 of the hijackers after the event. These suicide pilots.
Yeah.
who was still alive.
Most of these stories are taken down right away, whether they're help the establishment or not. Almost every story is taken. That story is still up there.
Yeah.
The one about the hijackers being alive, and I noticed there's one on Haaretz that talks about Jewish Khazarian homeland found. Every other story from that period's gone. Somebody is who runs the website is just holding these stories on there, even as they delete everything else. You know, there's a lot of when it's the truth, somebody is holding these stories up because they'd be eliminated because they want you to pay for the archives, things like that. You know. But anyway, it's finally 3:59. Make your last point here. We got to wrap it up.
Well, I'll join you again on your next show, young man. It's been.
We're thrilled to have you. You know, we need more and more voices. You know.
Yeah.
And, but I'm your responsible party of Stratios Constantine Moradius. I love saying the whole name. Chapter admin of World Freeman Society. We have Maggot. Earlier we had Don Perry, our other host. We have with us today Caribbean Critic in Barbados. We have Iconoclast Radio, who I want to promote. If you guys have any plugs or whatever, go ahead and give them. We'll put Maggot's MySpace page.
So Iconoclast is still on, yeah.
Are you still on? I think he's gone. All right, well, we'll wrap it up for today. Let's take us off air. I gotta hit some buttons.
Yeah.
We're so professional.
We're off now?
Yes, we're off.